Another round will bring you down. Another round won't save you now.
Yeah, reverse sweep coming up.
Big win for the Camelot Kings here, Dan. The Valkyries have done it not since week 2. It is the deicide for the Oni Warriors as they have pulled this game back from the brink.
But the rest of the Solar Scarabs follow up, down go the Titans, and Opera's got the first. What a 1-2 punch from the Bolts.
The damage comes from the Leviathans until Zapman puts them down with the snipe.
Defend their Titan, and the Tartar is Titan. Send us on to a game 3.
The Jade Dragons have come to play. 5 kills in 7 minutes.
Happy Sunday, SMITE fans. You are watching the SPL, and what a day we've got for you here today. On the back end of a 6-game day yesterday, we've got some fantastic matchups to lead in today. The SPL powered by our friends over at Alienware, and if you want to grab some sweet Alienware gear for yourself as well, you can go to smitegame.com/Alienware and then use code SMITEAW to grab some discounts on that Alienware gear that you're looking at for yourself. So once again, thanks to our friends over at Alienware for sponsoring us this year in the SPL. Mifflin joins me to talk all about yesterday, today, and then some. And Miff, we had a long one yesterday, a couple back-to-back 3-game sets, very contentious. And I think one of those teams coming out maybe with a vengeance here today, the Solar Scarabs fall yet again in 3 games.
Man, the Solar Scarabs, it's been the same trajectory every phase, hasn't it? It's this team has been improving and improving and improving, and it's not something we're just saying. It's not a buzzword that's being tossed out. They are legitimately getting much, much better every single time we see them. That's why it's so heartbreaking to see them not find a win time in and time out. But up here again today, as you said, maybe a hard loss up against the Jade Dragons, but maybe they like their odds a little bit more so against the Valkyries.
Well, our first broadcast of the week, Miff, was kind of the opposite of yesterday. Fast 2-0s, one for the Titans, one for the Bolts. The Bolts lost yesterday in our first matchup in 3 games to the Leviathans, and the Dragons won yesterday in 3 games up against the Solar Scarabs. Now remember, in Phase 3, we are playing 1 round robin, so the standings ever so important on a game-to-game basis. Atlantis Leviathans have played 4 of the other 7 teams, so they're on the home stretch. Effectively, everyone has played somewhere in that realm of games here. And so for the Valhalla Valkyries and the Solar Scarabs, it's time to make up some ground here. But really that top 2 is what's important, because if you remember back to phase 1, I think it was, when we did the group and we drafted groups for one another, those top 2 teams will be drafting groups. So top 2 is where you want to find yourself. And so some ground to make up, needless to say, for these guys. And a team, Miff, that has shown some promise, and I think we have similar styles of conversations. You said we talk about the Scarabs in a similar way, where they keep improving. The Valkyries as well are a team that, that they've shown improvement, but still some ground to make up here. The good news is you've got the rest of Phase 3, you've got the group stages, you've got play-ins. There's still time to make your mark.
Yeah, and I think the Valkyries are in an interesting position in that when the Scarabs improve, they kind of become more in line with the rest of the SPL. They're trying to start playing that similar style. I think the Scarabs are doing a very good job of almost emulating the Jade Dragon style of play, whereas the Valkyries, they're getting better and better, but they've really developed their own identity. They've really gone essentially off the deep end with some of these more interesting picks. They're the only team in the league that are still looking towards gods like Sun Wukong inside of the Soul Lane. They're the only team in the league that's really running these hunters inside the mid lane. It's very unique and interesting to watch these guys play, and very rarely they do hit pay dirt. Occasionally, guys like Johnny will just pop off and blow up a game with his low-key jungle, or Ducky will control the map with early rotations. One of the only players to still be playing tier inside of the SPL as well, as we're seeing inside of these highlights. The Valhalla Valkyries are a team that is hard to lock down what it is exactly that they're going to do. So once they do start to kind of refine that style, I think they are a legitimate threat.
What do you think about Ducky? The meta has shifted here, mainly in the jungles where we saw a lot of those shifts happen. Have seen some different takes on the solo lane here as of late. Do you think the current strong solo laners are some that fit pretty well with Ducky and his playstyle?
It's hard to say because he seems almost adverse to playing them, right? Like he's still sticking with whatever it is that he likes. But I think that Ducky certainly is capable of playing the meta. Nobody's out here saying, no shot, Ducky can play Odin, right? Like he can. I've seen it happen.
We know he can.
But maybe not given the opportunity too often, or maybe he's just a little bit more willing to play some of these less orthodox picks.
Well, we'll get to ask him ourselves. The man himself, Ducky, joins us now for the pregame interview. Ducky, always good to see you. Thanks for sitting down with me prior to this one. I'll jump right in where Miff and I left off there. Talk to me a little bit about the solo lane meta at the moment, and if you think that the gods that are being played synergize pretty well with you and your play style.
I think at the moment it's still Serb and Artheo, and then if they're banned, you pick one of the warriors that can farm well. One of them being Odin, but I don't like playing that character because he's difficult to play on ping because his free doesn't connect.
Yep.
But that would be a strong one. But my picks personally, I think they're still fine. I don't see an issue with them, and I don't think we'll have a problem with them today.
Right, and I think there could be some overlap here. We saw some tier plays from you in the highlight reel. Saw SOT play a little bit of that yesterday. SOT was playing a pretty aggressive style of solo lane yesterday. What's it like going into a matchup against Solo or Troll?
I mean, hopefully neither of us get soloed. That'd be a good start.
That's right.
But other than that, it's whoever makes the most impacts in team fights. I don't think there'll be a lot of fighting in solo side of the map.
It's such an interesting, I think, topic because SOT has kind of this eclectic god pool. Is anything on the table, really, when you play up against them? I mean, you're expecting the Thors, the Tiers, kind of anything under the sun you imagine SOT might bring out?
Or anything janky? Is that what you're saying?
Sure, anything janky?
Okay. I suppose, like, the Assassins, if he whips one of those out, those would be one of the staple picks. His Thor's pretty good. His Susano's good if he plays that.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll see a little Susano matchup here in the solo lane. Ducky, thanks for sitting down. I'll let you go get ready, and best of luck.
All right, thank you.
Sure. So SOT, maybe some jank here today. You can't expect too much or too little out of this solo lane matchup. Ducky has been a staple for this Valhalla Valkyries team, and a good Ducky game is a good Valhalla Valkyries game. On the flip side of that conversation, Miff, a good SOT game can be a good Solar Scarabs game. There were a few instances yesterday where it felt like SOT was playing out of his mind and kind of doing his best Nika, where he's going off, and then the rest of the team just couldn't get it together on the back end. But I think the way SOT has been playing recently, one of the main reasons in 3 of the last 4 matchups, the Scarabs team has pushed top teams to 3 games, not 4 games, 3 games.
Yeah, SOT might be one of the unsung heroes of this team.
I think so.
Right? He doesn't get a lot of eyes on him because we have bombastic players like Bobby who are doing crazy stuff, or you got the newbie inside of the league, Stewart, that a lot of people have their eyes towards. But SOT has been quietly out there doing things exactly like this. This was a 1 versus 3 up against the Jade Dragons inside of his lane, and not only does he survive against the odds, but he also takes a kill into PBM and just keeps rolling through. SOT is a consistent pillar for the Solar Scarabs, and I think that there's a little bit of parity between him and Ducky in that regard, and that both of these guys generally are going to be doing well regardless of how the map state's going. And SOT is definitely a player that, as you alluded to a little bit earlier, has a more so eclectic god pool, goes towards things like the Tier, the Hercules, things along those lines, but still can also play some of these more standard picks. SOT has quietly become one of my favorite solo laners to watch.
Yep, the way he plays, very in your face. I mean, it's as you want a solo laner to play. Very in your face, very aggressive, does not shy away from jumping into the team fights. It almost doesn't have that hesitation, and that's so important where you're playing an Odin, you see a big cage opportunity, you can't pause. You got to jump in, and it feels like for SOT, jumping in and being aggressive is always at the forefront of his mind. I think you have to feel, if we're zooming out and we're looking at the Solar Scarabs and the Valkyries, I think you have to feel for both teams. But right now, admittedly, I'm feeling for the Solar Scarabs. You've played the Kings, the Titans, and the Dragons. You lost 0-2 to the Oni Warriors. We talked to Baronic yesterday, who said that was just not our game. Sometimes you just get got, and they got against the Oni Warriors. But you go up against 3 of the top 4 teams in this league. You win game 2 every single time. You can't win game 1 or game 3. I mean, you have to feel for this team because, by their own admission, some things go a little bit differently, and you're looking at a Scarabs team that's, 1-3, 2-2, 3-1 potentially, depending on how some of those game 3s and games 1 go. Maybe it feels like a matter of time before they start to kind of put everything together.
Yeah, like we're on the precipice of an evolution for this team where they really do get things clicking on a more consistent basis. It feels like the Solar Scarabs have that potential, doesn't it? I mean, pushing these teams to 3 games consistently is so impressive in its own right. It's only a matter of time before the Solar Scarabs are able to find a couple of wins in their own right. So
It'll happen.
It's just a treat to watch these guys. Legitimately, I think a lot of the time we say teams play to the level of their competition, and that rings no truer than with the Solar Scarabs. If they're playing against the Jade Dragons, they look to be nearly as good as the Jade Dragons. If they're playing against the Titans, the same could be said. But that's a double-edged sword, Dave. Occasionally, these guys will play down to the level of their opponents as well. And well, I think that, again, speaks to the consistency of this team. That has been their main issue throughout the entirety of this year, is whether or not they can show up on game day and play at the level that we know that they're capable of at the exact same time. Sometimes Bobby wakes up on the right side of the bed and he's the only one playing well in the Solar Scarabs. Other times he's dragging a team while everyone else is doing well. But when they're all firing on the exact same cylinders at the exact same time, this team legitimately looks incredibly strong.
I think this is maybe the most excited I've been for a jungle matchup in a little while. I mean, yesterday, Sam versus Scream was an absolute treat to watch. But just because of what feels like relative early game impact from both of these teams, it feels like when the Valkyries are off to a great start, you can find Johnny somewhere in the forefront of the KDA conversation. Scream, it feels like, has been an early game powerhouse for this Scarabs team as well. So I think if picks and bans-wise, we start to get into an interesting game of chess between these two teams where the Erlang Shen maybe starts to get a little bit contested. Johnny's Thor, I don't know if I've seen much of it, but Scream, that's been a pick that he likes to bring out sometimes here and there. And so I think early game between these two junglers, and it's a bit of a non-statement just because of the meta we're in right now, but between Johnny and Scream should be a fun chess match, kind of wrestling for control for their teams.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much overlap there is particularly between their god pools, but definitely inside of the playstyle, I think there is something there. Scream likes going to that early game aggression very recently, has been rooting some of that aggression throughout the soul lane, likes to play around SOT, whereas Johnny generally likes to farm a little bit more so in the early, and then around level 6, 7, 8, then starts to hit his stride on picks like Loki and things along those lines. So maybe some high contention within the jungle, but maybe not for picks in my mind.
Fair enough. We'll get some of those answers right now in picks and bans for game number 1. Valkyries find themselves in that first pick slot. And, of course, that means Solar Scarabs will fall on over to second. And I think something Ducky brings up there is important. You know, it's been no secret, no small discussion around the ping and the environment that the Valkyries have had to play in. And so things like Odin, and that's one of the strongest picks in the solo lane at the moment, something Ducky, by his own admission just now, doesn't feel as comfortable playing at an SPL level because of the environment that the Valkyries have to play in. Then that kind of thing might start to factor into picks and bans a little bit. Maybe something the Solar Scarabs don't feel like they have to ban away, but the Valkyries do feel like they have to ban away. There's small little things like that could make a difference. Uller, strong ban, and I think we saw what Panda Cat was able to do on that pick yesterday, so no surprise that we see a ban here. And I think across the league, especially Stewart, who has grown for the Solar Scarabs team recently, can play Ull at a pretty high level. Kepri and Ardio, though, Miff, a couple strong bans to start off for the Solar Scarabs.
Yeah, and this makes sense. I was about to say that the Valkyries, if they don't ban Cerberus inside of this slot, would likely be forced into a situation where they have to take it first overall. As Ducky said, he thinks those are the two best Guardians or two best gods, full stop, to play within the soul lane. So, makes sense the Valkyries go ahead and remove that one from the table. And now in the first pick position,
Odin
have
is there.
A lot on the board. Odin is there, and we'll see if Ducky told the truth. And maybe he might not like playing it, but it is certainly still incredibly strong. Has to shift up these team fights. And Ducky, I guess it doesn't look too happy, does he?
So I gotta play Odin? What?
Oh, jeez.
Look, Odin's strong, and Ducky is a very good player. And I have faith that you'll be able to make a pick like this work. If nothing else, a big cage into a team fight, regardless of the three being easier or harder to connect, Odin definitely has his value outside of just the stun there in that kit. So there is still some power here for the Solar Scarabs to draft around, specifically in the jungle. Nothing identified in the first wave of bans here, so everything on the table. Fafnir, though, for inbound. Miff, this is admittedly an interesting pick in that we have seen plenty of Fafnir in Season 8 as a whole, but some other picks have started to join the forefront of the support conversation. Raijin, a little less surprising, 70%. Or no, it was 72% pick ban rate. So one less picked god here as of late, one very picked god for the Solar Scarabs.
Yeah, I was almost expecting the Solar Scarabs to go towards something like a Tiamat and a Sylvanas inside of that slot, considering how much Bobby likes that pick and how strong it's been since its minor rework, as well as the fact that Tiamat is literally just Tiamat. But instead, Fafnir and Raijin taken here, and maybe the Fafnir is a little bit of a nod towards the fact that Gungnir's Might does afford your team a little bit of additional attack speed, as would Fafnir. So, don't want to deal with that double stack, and just take it for yourself. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Valks, they're not hiding too much. It's that Loki signature pick of Johnny. Sobek locked in for the support role more than likely. Could even potentially flex between support and solo if they decide to send Odin over there. But this is a pick that has been working out for Scream a little bit so far. One game of experience on it. Bakasura locked in and up against things like the Sobek. All right, well, Pluck's pretty hard to deal with. Might as well just cripple it out. Do some true damage. You're not worried about all that defense that Sobek gets from inside of his kit. Odin as well. A lot of his kit is revolving around being able to utilize that leap for the bird bomb. Can't do that when you've been regurgitated upon.
That's right. And look, this Bakasura pick is one that we saw yesterday in the Solar Scarab set up against the Jade Dragons. It won yesterday in the Solar Scarab set up against the Jade Dragon. Scream looked good on it. Went more ability-based. Jotuns, Crusher, Erendite, short bow there towards the end. So, you know, you're always going to build into attack speed just a little bit there. But this feels like, look, Johnny's on the other side, and Johnny made his name in the SEC on these hyper carry late game style picks, and so now the Valkyries have to play against it, and you imagine Johnny will know that matchup well because of how much he has played the Bakasura in the past. Though Scream, one of the best to ever do it, and he'll know this matchup well up against the Loki on the other side. Second wave of bans roll through. Morgan and Soul take a seat, and so mid lane and potentially Hunter taking a bit of a hit there for the Valhalla Valkyries, while Heimdall and Tyr both banned away. And when SOT still needs a pick and Tyr is still there after what we saw him do yesterday, I think a pretty smart ban here for the Valkyries.
It is, but it does leave now with ban phase rounded up. Tiamat still available for the Valkyries to go towards if they so choose, but Zeros has shown a propensity in the past to not really enjoy playing that pick, so maybe we don't get to see that god locked in this time around as the Solar Scarabs take their first pick out of the second ban phase. Izanami locked in, and that is a lot of lane pressure already for this lane. I mean, the kill potential with Fafnir just leaping in and setting up with a stun immediately into a dark portal is always going to be there, but as far as like levels 1 through 5 go, nothing really beats Izanami inside of that lane. She just kind of sits there and auto-attacks the entire wave.
And we'll see what the Valkyries pick to maybe counter out some of that pressure. You got a Sobek, which helps in lane. You know, a good pluck can help set you up for some fun in that lane. On her might be a nice way to follow up on some of that setup that Sobek is going to pick up there. But let's talk about the actual lock-in here, Mifflin. Chang'e is going to get drafted in here for the mid lane for the Valhalla Valkyries.
It's got a good matchup into both Raijin and Bakasura. Bakasura kind of telegraphs exactly when he wants to fully commit to a fight. If he uses that ultimate, he's going to try and stick to you the entire time, and Moonlit Waltz kind of allows you to just dance your way out of there. That damage immunity as well as slow immunity, very effective up against Bakasura, but not just Bakasura. Raijin as well. When is he going to apply the majority of his damage? Has to put that Raiju on you first. Oh, he's trying to proc that? Maybe I dance out of this one too. Just drop that Cha-Cha slide and walk on out. So, I think that Chang'e can work out. She's a very fight pick. You want to be constantly applying damage throughout the early game, constantly looking for that poke, and then utilizing the healing in your kit to just keep yourself afloat if you need to have to trade out a little bit of your own HP to apply that damage. But there's a reason we don't see Chang'e super often. She's a very inconsistent pick. It's not often that you're getting a multi-man ultimates 2, 3 for you to get that full value. So, we'll see. Zeros has got a lot of experience on this god. So if anyone can do it, it's probably him.
Zeros has played some eclectic things out of the mid lane for the Valhalla Valkyries so far, not only this year, but this phase. 2 games ago, he played Neath. You got Thoth before that. And so Zero's definitely not one to shy away from some of the intrigue here out of the mid lane. Nike is the final pick here for the Solar Scarabs, Mifflin. And we've seen Nike come back into the draft phase a little bit. Still not up top as far as priority goes, but something that we can start to expect maybe a little bit further down in the draft. How does Nike, do you think, fit into the team fight here for the Solar Scarabs?
Looks like a good deal of like all-in commitment, right? You transform into the dragon, that means you're kind of hitting that go button. If Nike jumps in, probably hitting that go button. Bakasura's in the back line pressing ultimate, probably hitting that go button. So it's an all-in commitment style spearhead composition from the Solar Scarabs up against the Valkyries, who have similar potential in that Ring of Spears gets dropped down. You probably want to commit yourself to that engagement, but you can also kind of fall back on your heels and allow Chang'e to act as that full sustain god and just keep you alive in these elongated fights. So if I'm the Solar Scarabs, it's Nike, jump in there, apply your slow, let's chase out whoever we can. We need to get a kill as quickly as possible, whereas the Valkyries have a couple of options going forward, but maybe not as strong in either regard. Their all-in commitment might be slightly weaker, but they also have the potential to utilize that healing.
Do you want the bad news or the good news first, Mifflin?
Always bad news first.
All right, so the bad news is we do have a remake, and so we're going to remake the lobby before we get into game number 1.
Okay.
The good news is that you get to hang out with me for a little bit longer.
Sick.
And so that is good news,
yeah,
right?
That's tight.
Man, the death behind your eyes there, Miff, tells a different story. I'll have words with you back in the green room. No, we do have a quick remake between the Valkyries and the Solar Scarabs, and we'll be right into game 1 here shortly. I'm interested in this Hunter matchup, though. We've seen plenty of Izanami. I think Stuart has shown us that he can show up on this pick. Played it once against the Dragons yesterday. Kind of got sat on there a little bit. So a good chance to bounce back here. On her, Miff has I don't know, been missing maybe? I mean, we've maybe seen it on her a handful of times. What do we think about this pick? Why do we see him now?
Well, On her does utilize that ability-focused build pretty all right, going towards Jotuns and Crushers. I mean, you're going to do a lot of damage with Impale and Desert Fury. That additional CDR, if you do decide to go that Transcendence route as well, is going to feel pretty nice. I think that it legitimately just fits his style, Emilzy, that is, as the Valkyries kind of just pop off. They should, or Emilito, rather. They kind of just pop off inside of the duo lane. We saw Ho Yi locked in very recently, just diving in very aggressively up against Cyclone Spin on her. Gonna just fit that style, that aggressive hunter playstyle, which is a distinct shift from what we saw in like phase 1 or early phase 2 from this guy. It was a lot of Jingwei, a lot of Hachiman, a lot of Heimdall. Seems like the Valks ADC has found his confidence recently, and he's been looking a lot better for it.
Hope so. Could be a fun duo lane. Do you want the bad news or the good news first?
Let's do good news first this time.
You get to hang out with me even longer.
No shot.
The bad news is we are going to head to a quick break, and when we come back, the desk will set us up a little bit further before game 1.
Life on this fast route, yeah. Turn thoughts to a cash cow. I might flip that to the glass house. I don't need the accolades, I'm in love with the chase. I just wanna eat, save a spot at the table. Beast with the slap, pin myself on the map. You long with the wind, but we knowing that it's cap. 5-hour flights, couple nights at the flat. To be real, couldn't see me making moves while I'm at. I'm still on the grind, limit time when I chat. Burning down sage, keep the demons away. When I write it, give a piece of myself to the page. I don't do it for the praise, love, that's just how I'm made.
In the glass in the mirror, do it at me, old man, trying to pass interfere. You're the first one to talk, but the last one to hear. Eyes blurry, but I couldn't see that, and he cleared down. Start to feel like I'm on one. Settle in, I'll be here for the long run. I'm a slave for the cash, got snakes in the grass, no brakes on the ad, but it's all fun. We done seen it all, heard enough, give me space before I murder y'all. 10 bad here, I'ma curve them all. 12 missed calls, and I still made a curtain call. Here to light it up, lighten up. Hear him talking, they ain't right enough, tighten up. Everything that I came for, I left with. I don't bang sets, I just bang on the set list. Going past supper when I came for the breakfast. Put me in your prayers, I might put you on the guest list. Young, tell me reckless. Gold in my soul, got the same on my necklace.
Appreciate the patience, everybody. We are moments away from getting into game number 1 between the Valhalla Valkyries and the Solar Scarabs. Here's the good news, and there is no bad news after that. Dolson and Myth still sitting on the desk with one another. You know what, Myth? Why don't you tell us your hand sanitizer joke?
Okay, I've actually been waiting for this opportunity
gotta hit
for a
single for
while
this
now. So imagine, chat, I'm a little bit on the spot here. I'm similar, or not dissimilar, to Carrot Top in that it is a prop joke. So imagine I'm walking into the room. I'm
That hasn't
rubbing in
stopped
some
you
hand
explaining it to
sanitizer
everyone in
here.
the... Sorry, I'm not going to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I'm rubbing the hand sanitizer. I look up. I'm looking real earnest. Man, no matter how much hand sanitizer I put on, it just keeps disappearing. And what am I doing wrong? It stays just fine in the bottle, but it disappears on me. What's up with that? And that's the joke.
And that's the joke. And see, here's the problem. It falls flat now because
No, it does
not.
not.
I'm about to bail you out if you give me a second.
I don't need a bailout. I just nailed
I'm saying
it.
it falls flat right there because I'm purposefully not laughing.
Uh-huh.
Not even purposefully. I'm not laughing because
I heard a chuckle.
you heard me exhale out of my nose
And you couldn't help
a little
it.
bit.
And you've heard this joke 17 times, and you still couldn't help but exhale. That means that this joke
It's because it's you. my
actually popped off.
friend. It's because it's you.
Hey, thanks.
It's because it's you. Jithens is reporting that Chad is saying no.
What
I think
what does Jithens know about anything, man?
he's running our show.
Yeah, but what's he know about it?
Our show is running, so I think that counts for something. Myth, let's
I
talk.
guess.
One final thought here between these two drafts: Valkyries versus Solar Scarabs. You cover up the names on top. Do you like one better going into game 1?
All right, let me try. I'm going to cover the names.
Perfect.
Yeah, I like the one that is a little bit more so in line with the standard meta, which is going to be the Solar Scarabs this time around. It just feels like as far as like ease of execution goes, their draft is going to be a lot easier to perform on.
I'm sorry, Chad. I got Mifflin off the rails for like half a second, and now we've got it all day. So we'll see if...
I'm only on the first set.
Are you only on set 1?
That's right.
Man, I'm sorry to me. I've got to go deal with Mifflin. I'll go sit in the green room with him. Valhalla Valkyries versus Solar Scarabs, game 1 with J-Mac and Gore.
Thank you so much on the desk. Yeah, they're not exaggerating that we have heard that joke probably at least 17 times.
No, honestly, that's the first time I've heard the full thing. Like, I've heard
the full thing.
I heard like a really quick rundown, and Mifflin like laughed at it while he was saying it. But I haven't gotten the full like him saying he looked earnest, all that stuff. Like, I needed that full effect.
Well, there you go. You got the full joke. I've now heard it probably. I think I think 17 is probably not an exaggeration. It's been like a week and a half. He's been working on it. But
see, my problem is I keep
good
not
too.
leaving here because it's just so much, dude. It's too much effort to get back to the green room.
Let's
man.
get back right on track. It's J-Mac and Gore Miser. We got Doug on the camera. Game 1 for the Valkyries and Solar Scarabs. A big one for both of them. So far, haven't been successful in finding a win for either of these teams as far as sets go. But the Scarabs have been able to take us to multiple Game 3s against top 5 teams. Zeros is putting the hurt against Baronic on this Chunga mid. Sometimes people forget the kind of sneaky damage that this mage can do. It's not very often that we get to see this god at all.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the only person I've seen play her consistently over the last little while has been Zeros. Zeros really likes this Chunga up.
Stewart slammed against the wall. He'll be able to make it out thanks to a nice little bailout from inbound there, but Raffer making sure Emil can keep up on pace. And this is one thing we've been seeing out of the Valkyries a lot more recently has been Emil seems to have found his stride and found his confidence, and he's been able to pop off in this duo lane. Such success has been coming from this Hunter. He'll look to try and box against inbound. He'll push him away, a leap back in from the Dwarf Man, but not a whole lot more to be there. It's Johnny now tucked under the tier 1 tower in mid.
And I'm really, interested to watch the duo lane as a whole. I think Fafnir, has good setup, but so back, especially into Honor, I mean, that's just an OG kill lane, but Scream might have bit off more than he can chew here.
Ducky will get the spear ready, throw it right and impale him against it. He's going to take some damage. A leap over will be first blood. Ducky strikes it first for the Valkyries. SOT trying to turn around and get one of his own. A knock-up is good. Emil gets a kill on inbound on the other side. And SOT still trying to go for this kill, but Ducky's body blocks are just too much, and the decoy from Johnny enough to get the kill. 3 up now for the Valkyries.
Just a simple 1-2-3 punch. You overextend a little bit there on the Scarabs. Solar Troll, I think, overstays their welcome as well. Scream goes too deep, and then SOT just tries to get too much. Maybe too much tunnel vision trying to kill off Johnny, make it a 1-for-1 trade. I don't know what happened in the duo lane, but I can go ahead and bet it was a pluck into Honor doing Honor things, because that is what this lane is designed to do. It has been designed to do this since Smite was playable for any players outside of the devs. It has been the classic lane that I think only maybe is dwarfed by like old Ymir on her, which is another one that does a lot of similar things. One good wall into a stun. Here it's just a pluck that then lets up into a lot of easy confirmed damage. And with so many walls around there, as well as the pillars you can place up, I think it opens up a lot of opportunities. This is a good look for Emil to be able to get this early on as well. I mean, it's not a crazy amount of pressure just yet. You can see it's still level 3-3 in terms of where he is versus Stuart. Hasn't led to like crazy invades, but it is a great start for them just to be able to get things off, especially considering the track record for the Valkyries.
Inbound has not left these two alone. I swear, every time I look over at this dual lane, it's Inbound within auto attack range, or the ranged auto attack distance of this dual lane. He is constantly in their face and unrelenting, really, with this Fafnir, but he's the one who took that first death. And interesting to note, it's actually Inbound who goes for the war flag start.
Yeah.
Previously in the past, it's only been Raffer really going on this start, but Inbound decides he might want to try and take a spin on it here with this Fafnir. So curious to see how that will pan out for him in the solo lane. We do see a Bumba's Dagger from Ducky, a little bit of extra oomph in the jungle for him, and maybe some extra damage later, whether it be that Bumba's Hammer or that Bumba's Spear that we've seen so popularized in SOT. He'll go for a Bluestone Pennant, so just a little bit of extra wave clear, but SOT doesn't need wave clear right now. He needs help. Johnny is here, level 5 on the Loki. Misses the basic after, but SOT has that ultimate. Will he be able to get off in time? He will. The shield is good, but not enough. Ducky leaps down right on top of his head and puts a 4th one on the board for the Valks.
I mean, there's two ways I want to look at this. First off, Odin is just nuts, and it was really funny because when it was locked in, we'd even talked about it. Like, Ducky didn't look happy about it,
No.
but still has showcased right there a great reason why it can be so potent. I mean, it just stops Scream's aggression. That's easily a double kill for Scream if that stun doesn't come through with how low no mana Johnny has and how low health Ducky is. But so you get a lot of good from the Odin in the damage, which is way better than the Nike's early game. But Johnny's also just nuts on Loki, and it's real easy to forget about it considering how often it gets banned against the Valkyries.
I mean, all of Phase 2, it felt like that god was not allowed to be in his hands. It wasn't until, like, the very tail end of Phase 2 and in towards Phase 3 that Johnny finally got to go back towards this Loki, and he's looking good on it so far. 1-0-2 and a 2-0-1 for Ducky. In fact, Ducky even said in the interview, man, I really don't like playing Odin that much because of ping. It makes it a little bit harder, but you could have fooled me, man. 2 kills on the board for him, a 3 total just between him and Johnny, and then that solo or that kill into 2v2 for Emilitu earlier on gives them a nice little lead in duo. You already see about 1,000 gold in favor of the Valkyries just 5 minutes in.
And that's, again, a good charge, plus 4 kills across the board without any being answered back from the Scarabs. I will say, the Scarabs have a draft that 10 minutes from now is going to run house, right? I think that this is, if they get even just close to even into a late game team fight 5-on-5 with their kind of draft, they are going to be able to take any neutral objective, any 5-on-5 fight that the Valkyries step up to, unless something goes catastrophically wrong for them. Someone's out of position, which admittedly for the Scarabs has happened quite a bit over their last few sets, or that somebody maybe makes a mistake or has to use some relics in an opportune time and then Johnny's able to capitalize it. Like, there are a lot of moments in late game fights where the Valkyries could still win, but most easy blanket statement is that the Scarabs have a really great team fight draft. And so the Valkyries are going to have to take this lead and just grind as hard as they can to get it as large as they can. Make sure that the Scarabs won't ever fight them on that equal footing late game.
While Emil is trying to steal away that Harpy, may have forgotten there that Stuart is on an Izanami, so he can just turn himself over, and not only is he hitting the camp, but he can hit Emil too, and also deal a little bit of damage right back at him. It's a crusher start for both of the Hunters. Interesting, considering Stuart really doesn't have a whole lot of ability damage into his kit, just a little bit of extra attack speed, and when he does land those abilities, he can get a little bit more bang for his buck. Johnny, joined by Zeros and Ducky, trying to find Scream and Veronica. Quick Thunder Crash over the wall, make sure that Veronica gets out of danger, but that opens up the Greater Scorpion for Ducky and Johnny to take, and add a little bit of extra farm to their pockets. Zeros will juke out the hammer from inbound, and that'll make sure that the mid laner and Raffer are both able to walk away.
It is worth mentioning, Scream did use his ult for that. Zeros has dropped his ult as well, so admittedly maybe going ult for ult, but realistically, like, Zeros, good setup ult, but Johnny's going to be able to set up a lot of his own kills, at least in a one-on-one target, until Raffer, or Emilito, I should say, joins the fight. I don't know that Zeros needs that ult, although for Changa it is a huge chunk of damage that all of a sudden joins the fight. So it's going to be helpful to have, but I feel like Screams right now is a lot more essential for what he is trying to do. And I think they're going to have to slow their roll a little bit for the Scarabs. I actually love the way the Valkyries are playing this early game right now, getting aggressive. I mean, Raffer maybe a little too deep there trying to steal some back camps on his own, but he's going to be fine because he's a Guardian and he's Sobek, so he'll be able to walk out. He has his ult. It's just that this little bits of play, even if it's a little experience that you can strip from the jungle, that's a small lead Johnny's going to be able to pick up over Scream. And that, again, grows into a huge deal.
Fun fact for those at home who haven't seen a whole lot of Chang'e just because she's either not being played in your matchups or because we haven't seen her here in SPL. Let's talk a little bit about her ultimate because you brought that up. That Waxing Moon can be a major team fight turner, especially if she catches too many people in it. Every single person hit with that ultimate, the next person in line takes an additional second of that stun. It's 1 plus 1 second for each god already stunned. So if you hit all 5 people, that 5th person basically does not get to play the game because that's a 5-second stun, and that's from a single ability. That's not a hard CC chain that just goes wrong and you're in the middle. That is just you are at the back end of that fire. Raffer has to use his ult to try and get away, or 3 on this left-hand side, trying to pressure up that purple buff early on. Johnny will rotate over and help Emil, but Raffer is the one who needs the help. He gets caught in the middle of the ultimate of Scream, and the Stewart will be able to finally put the Scarabs on the board. First kill up for them.
Good news is it's just Raffer that falls. Bad news is that's exactly what the Scarabs can do when they group up, and you don't have a lot to fight against it. I actually love this call from the Scarabs.
Call for the
This is so
Valkyries
good.
here. The Scarabs can just go for a nice and easy Gold Fury. Johnny is here. He's got his ultimate. Will he use it? Try and go in and get aggressive. He will go in for the ult. Gets the stun, but inbound falls down. Johnny at least able to trade 1, but it's a Gold Fury for the Scarabs, and trading your support every day of the week.
Yeah, no, you're more than happy for that. Admittedly, you kind of got a 2-for-1 trade if you think about it. Raffer and Johnny die, and they get a Gold Fury. And yeah, you lose inbound, but that's a trade you make regardless of any scenario. That is a perfect setup for the Scarabs, and a great call from them to get that aggressive early on as well. A great use of the Coerce from Fafnir. We've seen a lot less of him lately, but that is exactly what he can bring to the table. And I think it just goes to show how difficult in a lot of these team fight engagements, although that one maybe wasn't a full team fight, but just groupings from the Scarabs, how strong that is going to be, and then how difficult it will be to retaliate against them if you're the Valkyries.
Well, Ducky gets to play the bully here on the right side of the map, stealing away a blue buff from SOT, so SOT doesn't get to have a whole lot of fun on this Nike, and Raffer doing the best that he can to be a disruption against Scream, but it is a Bakasur, and he can just eat any of these minions that he wants to. He can eat pretty much anything on the map that isn't a jungle boss at the very least. Imagine, oh god, now I'm just having nightmares thinking of a Bakasur just being able to eat like a Pyromancer or a Gold Fury. That'd be...
I thought Fire Giant.
Oh no, that...
I think it'd just be funny to see the animation
for
that.
Oh yeah, just to see it like ragdoll like collapse in on itself. Just in the middle of all that, obviously there'd have to be a different threshold. There's no way he could get like a 25% threshold against a Fire Giant, just eat that. That'd be absolutely absurd, but
dude,
it would be
then
funny.
we start entering conversations of like hold hog, and like Bakasur becomes top meta for his execute on objective. That would be nuts.
That would absolutely be disgusting to watch. Inbound, he's going to get CC chained, an absolutely disgusting CC chain by the team. He'll go up into Draconic form. Raffer look for the kill on landing, but it's Johnny who picks it up. 6 on the board for the Valks, and maybe looking for more. Scream and Stewart both on the run. Level 11 from the Baka and the Izanami. A quick response from Scream. Gets him out of the pluck from Raffer, but Johnny is waiting around. He's got the Assassinate. Finds Stewart with it. The chops after. Not good enough, and the dot damage after the stealth will not get the follow-up kill, but able to at least get the ultimate burn from Scream.
They get a good kill on inbound. They burn a lot of ults from the Scarabs. Admittedly, you also had to burn a lot of ults as the Valkyries to get there. They didn't get any relics. That's actually one that is very impressive to me. The beads not needing to be used by Stewart or Baronic, who wasn't in the engagement, but inbound didn't have to use his sprint or didn't choose to use his sprint. And Scream, just with really, really lightning fast reflexes, was able to ult and make sure he doesn't get plucked. I mean, things like that are really going to help separate a lot of these little engagements. But I like the fact that despite a admittedly difficult call for them to make it and the Valkyries falling behind just because of that Fury, they haven't really slowed down the way they were playing it. They recognize that they still have a little bit of power early on, and right now you're seeing it in glimpses of their 4 rotating. And this is like a small thing. Chang'e having a little bit of movement speed whenever you dance theoretically can help you rotate throughout the lanes as well, so we'll expect to see Zeros over in the left lane a little bit more maybe than Baronic. But also you have to admit that it's nice for Zeros who doesn't have to back every single time he wants to buy a new item. And so that's going to be able to help keep his farm going for him. So far it hasn't amassed a level or anything over Baronic, but I expect to see a little bit more pressure coming out from mid lane for the Valkyries.
You know, that's a good thing to bring up, is that Zeros is playing the only god in the game who doesn't have to go back to base to get his own item. He can sit there and farm up, and as long as he has
He just
enough
got a
mana,
soul gem without having to back.
yeah, he's still standing there in the mid lane. That's the help of that rabbit. Man, that rabbit used to take forever to get down those lanes and then got buffed, and now it's a lightning fast way to get your items back online, to get yourself some extra points. Now, the interesting thing to know with it is you can only get one thing at a time, so you can't buy multiple wards, you can't buy multiple potions and an item. You can only get one potion, one ward, one item at a time, but every little bit can help to make sure you can maintain some farm here in mid lane.
I'm going to say what is probably going to be a controversial-ish statement.
Okay.
I think Chunga's kit might be my favorite in the game.
Well, we'll have to talk a little bit more about that after Zeus gets collapsed on in mid lane. He's diving back under his tower, but that's not going to be safe enough for him. Johnny goes in against Scream, and the dash swipes are good enough to take him out. Now Baronic may be in danger. Ducky is rotated over. The cage drops down. Baronic caught in the middle and with no leap and no escape. He may be easy pickings here, but it's just the frontliners focused on him. Not enough damage going through just yet. Thunder Crash not going to get him out. The Bluestone, or the damage after ticking him away. Those thorns pile on. That's going to be a 2-for-1 trade in the mid lane. Valkyries on the upper end.
Oh, Raffer barely gets out of there. Johnny barely gets out of there, but out they are. Well, okay, Raffer's played a little close, man. Come on. I'm telling you, you're out of there. Get out of there. He's going to be able to stay alive just fine. A really good retaliation from the Valkyries. Good cage. As of right now, there's no Phantom online. Solar Troll is now level 13, so that might be something they look up, and level 11 here for inbound, so it might be on the horizon for them. And that cage lockdown is maybe the biggest deal for them. I mean, that is a great pick individually onto Zeros, but because they don't have anything for a retaliation, you get picture-perfect-esque quality on killing Zeros, and then a great set of walls from Ducky.
Run, Johnny, run. Run as fast as you can. He'll make it out thanks to the cage from from Ducky, stopping SOT in place. But SOT low on mana. Not much further chase, so Johnny does get to make it out. But again, a lot of it thanks to Ducky just being this massive frontliner, this 2-level lead that he's been able to amass has helped him jump in the middle of these fights with really little to no care for anybody's life.
I feel like Johnny has also spent, unfortunately, a lot of this game, I feel like, has been at half health or less, right? Like, he has been
living on the edge,
man, on the side of potentially going down, and Zeros is going to have to be careful in this mid lane. Like, you can see, yes, you've got good healing, but that damage from Baronic as of this point, especially with the Divine Ruin finish, is nothing to scoff at, and you're going to have to be worried about the pressure he provides, especially if inbound hits a stun, or if, you know, Scream just happens to show up after the initial burst of damage. So there's a little bit of pressure onto the Chang'e already. You can see that despite that Gold Fury earlier, like, Gold hasn't necessarily swung heavily in either side of these teams. It's all been these kills right now. And the Valkyries, if they can continue controlling that Oni Fury's back up, they do have a little bit of pressure to try and at least scoop it away.
Man, I feel Ducky's pain there. He just wanted to take that tier 1 tower, and SOT pops that barrier. He's going to try again. The barrier, will it be enough to push him away? He can't get to the tower. Poor Ducky. The minions will be able to take it for him, but man, Ducky is just being bullied by this barrier alone. Oni Fury started up by the Valkyries, inbound and Scream at the front lines for the Scarabs to try and stop this one. Raffer will get a pluck against inbound and throw him in the back line, but a quick leap out from the Dwarf makes sure he gets out of danger, but the Oni Fury started up one more time by the Valkyries.
I think worth mentioning is that the fact that the Valkyries have beat the Scarabs at one point this year. Granted, they were in a wild disarray for their roster changes. But I know
really
it's something that burns, I think, for the Valkyries. Yeah, this is just such a risky call.
Oh, Zeros goes in, finds a 2-man ultimate. Now Baronic has to use the beads and get out. Stewart's relics are also both down, and Johnny picks off Baronic in a backline with the assassinate. That's one now for the Valkyries. The cage drops to separate the fight. Inbound has to use the Draconic form just to try and disengage. He'll get a stun against Raffer, but the level 17 Ducky is here for the team, and now right back to the Fury the Valkyries go.
And that's the exact setup a majority of their fights are going to need. Someone get the beads or the Aegis off of the carries, and then Johnny come in and scoop them up in the backline. I mean, that is exactly what this draft is designed to do.
They're risking this. Raffer is low, and the ultimate from SOT takes him down, and the Scarabs steal away. The Fury can inbound, make it out with his life. He is living on a sliver of health. Making it back to the tier 1 tower is a big play for him. He's going to get some healing back with the course, and the leap is enough to get him out. An objective steal, a kill off the tail end, and maybe even more if SOT can close the gap on Johnny.
I am perplexed by Inbound's positioning right now. He wants to give assistance to SOT, and he will be able to do so, but that is such a dangerous game to be playing, and yet they still end up being able to walk out. I want to say slightly ahead. It's unfortunate you lose a lot of the relics, Stuart and Baronic, but now that you've especially picked up the Pyromancer, it's overwhelmingly
SOT,
in your
leave him
favor.
alone.
You steal an objective, and you're able to get that fight, force the Valkyries to just feel foolish. I mean, it felt like a risky call to begin with, but then as time went on, they just kept it so close to low, but no one has insane confirm at that point. The Valkyries need to figure out their game plan a little quicker.
This is something that you can only see happen by a Nike, is the fact that he's able to stand under the tower. Let's take a second look at that Oni Fury steal by SOT, that Sentinel of Zeus. Kills Raffer immediately with it, and then just turns over and slams a couple of damage with the barrier. And that's enough to take the Fury away, and then the fight after goes in favor of the Solar Scarab. So a nice objective steal by the solo laner. He's been, I'm just going to put it nicely, he's been kind of bullied here on this right side. He's only level 15. He's 2.5 levels down, closer to that 3 against Ducky, but he's still able to make these high-impact plays and keep the Solar Scarabs alive.
And realistically, one of the things that showcases itself in that play is that it didn't matter how far behind he was. Ducky, and pretty much anybody on the Valkyries, they have one job, which is stop Sot from getting in there.
Oh, they tried.
And Sot just reads the stun. You see Ducky go up for the charge, and he just steps back, sees the stun go right in front of him, and is like, all right, cracks his knuckles, walks on in, and you know, just does a day's work and steals an Oni Fury away. That's going to give him some good pressure, or at least theoretically, it would have given him some good pressure. It seems like the Valkyries have done a good job dealing with that. But this is where things get a little more precarious. Again, they got the Pyromancer on the back of that for the Scarabs. You're looking at what is a kill lead for the Valkyries, but a gold lead for the Scarabs, which makes things feel a little more rough. Because, and we've seen this, the Scarabs actually, as a team that has done this in the past, where you're winning a lot of fights, but you're losing the objectives. It's Game 1, Phase 1 versus the Dragons was a lot like that, where they're just slaughtering everything that's against them, and they were killing the Dragons outright, but they were losing the map, and that's what's happening to the Valkyries right now.
Inbound plucked under the tower, but not a whole lot of follow-up until Emmel shows up and slams with a Pillar Impale on landing, but not much further beyond that. The Valkyries at least get to save their Tier 1 tower that was under fire by the Scarabs. It pushes them back, but the Scarabs, they've net themselves about a 1,500 gold lead over the Valkyries with the help of that Fury going down and the kills after. Then they were able to get a Tier 1 tower, as highlighted so beautifully there by SOT, able to sit under Tier 1 tower, hold barrier, and just say, come on, I dare you to try and hit me, because you're not going to break through this barrier. Your minions aren't going to do anything. I mean, it's the funniest thing to me just watching an entire wave of minions just being pushed constantly by barrier formation. One of the more annoying abilities to deal with. We'll see if the Valkyries can deal with it here at the Spire Giant.
Frenzy and Coerce, this is going to burn fast.
Fire Giant already started up, down to a quarter health. Scream trying to find a way out of the cage, or just trying to find a way out of the pit. Inbound is low.
It's so
Raffer
low.
goes in for the pluck. Baronic picks up Raffer, but Ducky with the thorns is shredding through Stewart's health bar. His stun is good, and Johnny picks him up. Ducky leaps to the back line,
What a
finds a
stun.
stun again. Scream, he's low, trying to find a way out, but he can't. It's a double kill for Johnny. 1 for 0, and SOT, the only one healthy to try and fight back.
They're just so scattered. They get so separated. Maybe are too focused on the Fire Giant. It gets low. There's a world where maybe 1 or 2 of the Valkyries walks in and just takes the Fire Giant in that fight. Granted, they don't then get 3 kills. Now they get the best of both worlds. They get 3 kills, maybe 4, if Sot gets caught out here. And they should be able to get a Fire Giant off of this back. I mean, they don't have Raffer right now, so they might need to wait for him to come through. But you've got then 20 seconds after he's respawned before the Scarabs are at full power. You do still need to worry about that. We were talking about it yesterday. You cannot let this Fafnir walk into the Fire Giant area and steal this with a hammer. We've seen it too many times, and I will be so utterly disappointed and have no faith in the Valkyries if that happens.
Okay, well, here's his moment to shine. Inbound is the only one on this right side of the map to try and stop this Fire Giant. He's at half health. The Valkyries are doing the best they can to zone him out. He's got the lead available,
J-Mac,
but he's
nervous.
not going to go in.
Okay.
He's just going to concede this Fire Giant. I know. I was trying to hold my breath for it, too, in case he did jump in. But Inbound will not give up his life to try and steal the objective. He'll concede that to the Valhalla Valkyries, who can finally put themselves back in the lead, about 2,000 gold to their name.
This is that is a good fight for them, where they're able to separate and string apart the Scarabs and pick them off 1 by 1. A great couple of kills. I mean, look, Johnny's 7-1-4. We've gotten this performance.
When did that happen?
Realistically, we've only gotten this performance out of him on Loki this year, and it has been so phenomenal to see. But if anything that Scream is doing right now is a showcase, knowing that Bakasura could be in the meta, I think is also like a slight buff to Johnny all of a sudden, enabling him to play at least something else that we know is in his god pool that can perform incredibly well. But he's just finding these picks. He's doing such a good job getting to the back line. He's separating them. Stewart gets caught out first and foremost while the rest of the team tries to disengage. And then once you get rid of one, it felt so much easier for the Valkyries to just thunder forward and strip away what was then the rest of the carries.
Pyromancer goes the way of the Solar Scarabs, and the Valhalla Valkyries pick up the Primal Fury, and now they can start pushing up the left side of the map. Still quite a few towers across the board to be picked up, 4 on each side, but now with the full Fire Giant team of the Valkyries, they can group up and start pushing them down. Tier 1 on the left side will be the first target for the Valkyries, and it's the Tier 2 on right for the Solar Scarabs. So they'll trade out. The gold will definitely go in favor of Scarabs in that. They'll get 1,000 more comparatively, but the Valkyries can still continue their push. They'll look at the Tier 2 tower, and once the minions show up, that will be enough of the extra presence that they need to take it out. Raffer will go back to base, and that's the call for the Valkyries to make their retreat. So they come up with a little bit of a net positive, about 500 as a net positive compared to the trade they took on right side, losing that Tier 2. But the Valkyries still able to maintain a small lead here, 23 minutes in. Johnny being 7-1. Ducky at 3-0 at level 20 on this Odin. He's got one more item to finish up here. Looks like it might just be that Pridwin as a final selection for Ducky. Give him a little bit of extra tankiness and some CDR. The Valkyries, they're in a good position here in Game 1.
I mean, that's maybe even an understatement. I mean, gold could be much higher for them, but they still have a little under 2 minutes left on this Fire Giant buff that they're going to be able to push down. Should be able to pressure out a Tier 2, at least one more Tier 2. They could pressure out a Phoenix, but they might be looking potentially at trying to play the safe play right here, especially with how slow that last Tier 2 was. You've got to be a lot more cautious with this. I don't know that they have the quick burn that I was anticipating, especially if you look at the other side. If the Scarabs get into a position where they can group up to assault a tower or a Phoenix, they've got Frenzy, they've got Coerce, and they've got 2 really heavy-handed auto attackers. I think you need to be able to take this cautiously, recognize that some of your strengths are going to be a little slower, and that it might be worth maybe helping out Johnny over here or sending somebody else to kind of split it in mid to a 3-2 split.
Good Lord, Johnny is chunking that Tier 2 by himself. He doesn't need the rest of the team, and maybe that could be the bait that the Valkyries need to have Johnny try and distract them. Maybe they can walk in towards this left side. Phoenix Zero goes in the back line, finds an only against Stewart, locked inside the cage. He'll try and find a way out, but Ducky is right behind him, but it's Scream who finds one right in the midst of all of it. SOT goes in with the ultimate. Johnny finds a second kill for them, but Johnny is low, Raffer is low, and Emil might be the next one on the chopping block after SOT at full health on this. Nike is just going to be an absolute menace for the Valkyries to deal with.
And this is where, look, Raffer's so low, they should be able to close this out and make a big swing.
Inbound gets the stun, and that's enough dot damage to take him down. Now MLS trying to box against SOT. The disarm and the Aegis delay his life, but Ducky picks up one by himself and could try and grab inbound. Emil's just going to ignore SOT, and it's Ducky and Emil now charging back forward towards this left side. Phoenix inbound de-transforms, the cage comes out, and Emil picks up his life.
And Emil still has Fire Giant. Look, not for long, but he still has it, so that should be some damage, but look how low he is. Solo or Troll can make a hero play.
The disarmament against his own pillar. SOT takes him down. It's a 4-for-4 trade, and the left side Phoenix still stands, and SOT, he's not done. All that bullying that Ducky's done him in solo lane, SOT is out for blood.
I mean, and admittedly, this is something that I think they could continue chasing. I don't know that we see a kill come out of this specific play. Although I think Solar Troll is not going to stop until he finds out. At this point, look, right here is where I start to draw the line. You need to start pulling back. Respawns have come through from Johnny, Zeros, and Raffer. And yeah, that's really going to be the call. You do have Scream and Stewart back in the Iza. Fire Giant's going to be coming up in, well, like 30-ish seconds. So you need to get the regrouping going. There's a good chance to back and reset. Relics are burned widely across the teams. But I do have to look at Baronic having his Aegis, and specifically Zero's having those beads. A lot of things that can be very helpful for those team fights. But there's no Phantom on the side of the Scarabs, just at all. So any good Odin cage from Ducky, admittedly difficult to keep everyone locked in. Most people have a leap that's going to get, in fact, all of them have a leap that can get them out of there. But one well-timed ult from Ducky is going to trap somebody.
I mean, you saw SOT leap in the middle of, what was that, 4 people, pops his ult, and he's just begging anybody to smack that health shield. And Nobody did. Nobody could.
He steals Odin's voice line, the "come fight me," but it's
Yeah,
just Solar
come
Troll.
find me, says the Nike. I'm going to lead my team to the victory at this Phoenix fight. It was a 4-for-4 trade. The Valkyries, they get a nice reset here to try and get set up for this Fire Giant, but they've only got that 2,000 gold. That lead has not changed in the last 5 or so minutes of play for either of these teams necessarily. Inbound will walk forward. Raffer gets the pluck, throws him right into Ducky, but a quick leap out, and Zeros goes in with a big ultimate for Ronic and Stewart. Stewart trapped still inside the cage. Raffer picks up one. Stewart is fighting for his life, but it's Zeros who puts him down. A double ultimate out of the mid laner starts the fight, and it may just be all the Valkyries need to potentially close this one out. Johnny is chasing SOT. The barrier will not save his life. It's a double kill for the mid laner, and the Valkyries might look to take this one home.
Most of this game has been Johnny. Look, 8-2-6, you can't complain about that. 5-0-7, Ducky has been a huge part of this, but that fight is gifted by Zero. Such a good set of stuns and then good kills. To get rid of Baronic and Stewart first makes things so much easier.
And it's going to be a Titan defense, just Scream and Inbound here to try and defend against the 5 strong of the Valkyries. We don't need Fire Giant. All we need is our own damage. Scream in the backline goes for Emil. He'll pick up one. That's one already for Scream, and he's down to half health. Gets plucked and slammed against the wall and has to leap away. Titan not taking a whole lot of damage. Inbound is dealing with Zeros and doing a good job of it. Cage comes down. Scream hunting for the carry, but they just can't find it. The Valhalla Valkyries looking to take game number 1 against the Solar Scarabs, and they do so. A 28-minute win, and the Valkyries get it.
If they were able to burn Zeros down just slightly faster, look, Scream's there. He's got good damage, low health. Gotta give that credit. But Baronic just respawned. I'm starting to get a little nervous if I'm the Valkyries right there. But luckily for them, again, they have the damage necessary. That is, again, a great fight, a great initiation from Zeros to start things off. That Chang'e, I don't anticipate needing to be banned, but that is something that you have to plan for now, knowing that Zeros is willing to pull it back out. It looked really good alongside Johnny's Loki, and those two being back in their stride, it is a lot more reminiscent of what we saw at the beginning of the year from this team than anything we saw in Phase 2.
Just a dangerous ultimate. Zeros able to help turn it around with Johnny right at the tail end of the game, and Valkyries take game number 1. We're going to take it to a break and get a little bit of a rest after that, and we'll bring it right back to the desk right after.
Welcome back to the SPL, powered by our friends at Alienware after a 1-0 start to this set for the Valhalla Valkyries. For context, the Valkyries have not won a game, not only a set, but have not won a game since week 4 of Phase 2, where they beat the Solar Scarabs 2-0 when Slaney was subbing in, and have not won a single game since then. So this is very impactful, some growth now for the Valhalla Valkyries, and it's powered by our friends at Alienware, the SPL is, but it's furnished, clothing and jerseys and all that sort of fun stuff by our friends at Insight Apparel Company. And what a season to have these joggers come out in, huh? It's fall time, you want to be at home, nice and cozy, watching the SPL. Well, you can, and you can do it now with your favorite, what is that, your hip, I guess, your favorite team on your hip at shop.smiteproleague.com. And if you're going to be sitting at your desk gaming or watching the SPL, why not pair it with a nice mouse pad? The Valkyries mouse pad actually looks pretty sweet. Maybe I'll go home and buy one. Thanks to our friends over at Insight, and shop.smiteproleague.com is where you want to head to pick up a set. Is it a set of joggers, Miff? Would it be a pair of joggers? Like a pair of pants. I imagine the pair of joggers is the same thing.
You know, I've always had some issue with the diction around this, because you don't buy singular pant.
Told you, Chad. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You buy pants, and if I'm not buying a pair of pants, is that 2 pants? Why is it plural? Why are we? Nobody's buying singular pant, and that's my type 5.
Your what?
My type 5. The hand sanitizer bit immediately into the pant joke, and then I transition it into airplane food.
We have to give every aspect of credit to the Valhalla Valkyries, and I'm not going to let you derail. I mean, totally you who derailed this, not me. I had no hand in that. Look, the Valkyries, we've seen these types of games from the Valkyries, haven't we? For like the first half, and then it's a team that has struggled to close out these games. This game was not without its struggles. The Scarabs come back into things, but between Ducky and Johnny, there was enough lockdown and damage to give the Valkyries a great shot and a win here for the first time in a little while. Yeah, the Valhalla Valkyries, I think, had it been just about almost any other team, and I'm going to be completely candid here, wiping on Phoenix and not being able to pick one up probably would have spelled just about the beginning of the end for them, but the Valhalla Valkyries were able to equalize and find themselves a win here thanks to some very early game aggression and some phenomenal individual plays from these guys. Yeah, triple ultimate from Zeros. You're probably winning that team fight. Is Chang'e the best mage in the game? Well, okay. Yeah, we can go down this line. If you hit 5 people with your ultimate, any ultimate in the game, Chang'e is probably the best. Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. Look, Zeros looked good on it. There were moments of shakiness where the immobility allowed Zeros to be jumped on a handful of times, but the Valkyries play as a team down the stretch. They win the team fights. Ducky goes 5-0-8. Johnny goes 8-2-7. And Zeros, Raffer, and Emilito are able to supply the rest of those team fights to give the Valkyries a 1-0 lead here in this set over the Solar Scarabs. In Miff, we didn't really talk about it all that much. You might get the feelings that this is a must-win set for the Solar Scarabs. You know, they've talked so much, and for good reason. They've looked good, but they've talked so much about how a lot of their losses are self-inflicted, how they've thrown sets that they should have won up against the Titans and the Kings and the Jade Dragons, some of the top teams here in this league. You have to then win a set like this up against a struggling Valkyries team. Yeah, I think that even earlier on in the week during the waiting room, Agro went on to say that if the Scarabs want to be considered a contender for a top team, they should have beat the Jade Dragons, right? That's the only way, because they're running out of teams now to play against that are in that top seed. But the Solar Scarabs are becoming dangerously close to what I would consider clowns. I'm just going to go ahead and say it completely candidly, because what have they said after every single set, it feels like? The better team lost, every single game was winnable, we threw this, that, or the other, excuses after excuses. And now, up against the Valhalla Valkyries struggling like this, a team that keeps talking and not getting any results, I think can only be described as clown. Here's the good news, Miff, if you're the Solar Scarabs or a Solar Scarabs fan, is that and I am. Game 2 has... Are you? I am. Yeah, I guess fans tend to be the ones most frustrated with their teams as picks and bans for game number 2 start off here. The good news for the Scarabs is the game 1 losses and then game 2 bounce backs kind of go hand in hand with this squad. Titans, Kings, Dragons, I mean, you get this big bounce back in game 2 and then have fallen short in game 3. So, if history is going to repeat itself here, the Solar Scarabs should have a good showing here in game 2 to push us on to a game 3. But if the Valkyries and notably Ducky and Johnny continue to play the way that they did in game 1, could be a 2-0 set going the opposite direction from the way that all of us voted. So the Solar Scarabs up against it here and got to make something happen in game number 2. Khepri will continue to be prioritized, banned out first and foremost overall, and then Ull will take a seat as well. See, I'm sad that Ull doesn't get picked because I think it's a lot of fun to watch, but I totally get it that you don't want to play against it just because of how strong it is right now.
Especially up against Stewart, who did have the name Stuhler in the SEC level, so might as well
that a
keep
good
him
name?
uncomfortable. You like Stuhler?
Yeah, I mean, is that good?
As far as like god name plus first like couple of letters
Right.
of player name, I think it's it's pretty
Fine.
up there.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's okay.
I'm sorry. What do you mean?
No,
Go
I mean,
on-
it just
go
sounds
on.
like a footrest, like Stuhler.
All right, so Cerberus going to be locked in first overall here by the Solar Scarabs. The ban phase has rounded
Stop
itself
getting me off
out.
track, Miff.
The Valkyries, again, trying to keep Stewart uncomfortable. Round out their bans with an Artemis and then an Odin immediately afterwards. So a lot of very viable gods still available. The Solar Scarabs take Cerberus, something that's been dominant inside of the Soul Lane, and it leaves the Valkyries in a position where they can go
Interesting.
just about anywhere, and they choose the Heimdall. A strong god, to be sure. Great survivability, good CC immunity.
First pick,
with
though?
phenomenal mobility, but first pick, though, I think is the question ringing on the desk and in the fans' chat. I don't think I'm taking Heimdall first overall when there's like, I don't know, Sylvanas, Tiamat, any one of these like super meta junglers right now. Yeah.
Do you think there's any value in like leaving the mid lane pick for a little bit later, not picking something super early that can get countered out later in the draft? I mean, is there any value in picking a somewhat safe hunter in Heimdall and then leaving some flexibility as far as not countering out those pivot points in the draft later on?
I think that is a good game plan if there isn't a whole lot of meta still available, right?
Sure.
And there still is a whole lot of meta still available for the Solar Scarabs to go towards in this next phase, where they've already established an incredibly strong first pick inside of Cerberus. So the Valkyries might hit pay dirt here with this kind of wait-and-see strategy, but generally when you're waiting to see what the opposition's going to do, that means you've allowed them to play their own game plan, and the Solar Scarabs now get to go a little bit further. Terra
scary front
rounds out this draft, which means that likely Terra going to be support, which is a very aggressive style of support, which fits inbound style very well.
Cerberus plus Terra is a pretty terrifying front line, if you ask me
nice.
there, Mifflin. Tiamat ends up getting picked 5th overall. Crazy that that pick falls down that far. 50% win rate. So neither here nor there. It seems like teams have figured out how to play around this, but it's that potential, right? The ceiling, the possibility that Tiamat brings to the mid lane as far as taking a game over. Certainly very strong. Morgan was hovered by the Valkyries as far as that first pick went. They ended up opting for Heimdall, as Miff and I have talked about. Sobek and the Morgan then will end up getting locked in for 2 and 3 here from the Valkyries. Zeros plus Morgan there, Miff. I think a combination that could provide some potency here in this matchup.
Especially considering how great some of the transformation options already are for this
are.
Morgan. You can go for the Stygian Torment from Cerberus, the Earthen Fury from Terra, and both going to be phenomenal team fight tools to have on your side. And the Valkyries certainly going to have some targets that they're looking to one-shot inside of these fights, namely Tiamat. Maybe easier said than done, but if anyone's capable of doing it, it is going to be the Morgan for the Valkyries as of right now. But this draft is very high execution already from the Valhalla Valkyries. I mean, Heimdall needs to play very well around his positioning, considering that Bifrost, although a great tool inside of lane to make sure you're staying alive, in the team fight, a little bit harder to utilize. The Morrigan as well, going to have to execute very, very well inside of the play on field, just because you're largely a mobile mage that really only has a stealth for that escape. So the Valkyries find themselves in a position now where they are going to be demanded of excellence if they want to win.
And I think then, to your point there, Miff, makes some sense what the Valkyries end up banning out with their next two. Tsukiyomi and Bastet, both taken away from Scream. Both of those picks have the ability to jump onto the Morrigan, make that pick a little bit more uncomfortable. Hercules locked in here, and I'm going to assume that's for Ducky, and I think it's a pretty strong pick. We've seen the aggression from a pick like this for SOT, for the Solar Scarabs, and I think with the Cerberus locked in, that wasn't really a chance, but Ducky on this pick I think could be some fun to watch. The Hunbats rounds out the draft now for the Solar Scarabs. Feels like the setup is pretty clear here. The team fight looks pretty good for the Scarabs team.
Man, generally, Terra has been one of the counter picks into Hunbots because you're always going to be able to pop that Earthen Fury to apply a heal to your team, but Terra and Hunbots together has that similar strength in that if you are using the Terra ultimate aggressively, Hunbots is going to be able to proc it with Fear No Evil every single time without fail. which is why I think we see a little bit of a safer pick inside of the Robin for the jungler. On the side of the Valhalla Valkyries, if you're on time with it, overhead kick might just get you out of some of these sticky situations, especially against things that are as telegraphed as Earthern Fury and Fear No Evil.
Well, Miff, Heimdall got locked in first, and we raised our eyebrows a little bit with how much was still available as far as meta picks go for this Valhalla Valkyries team. Now we have the ability of hindsight. We get to look back look back at the draft and see exactly what got locked in here. You add a Morgan, Hercules, Robin for your final 3. You're a little bit more comfortable now with, you take Heimdall first, but you're able to still get the rest of this draft. Does that at least give you some comfort here for the Valkyries in Game 2?
The Valkyries have a draft that can work, but it's so hard to play around, man. You don't have too much AoE damage. The Morgan generally single target. I mean, your CC setup is good. You've got 2 ways to displace, both with Pluck and from Hercules as well, the pull punch combo. Robin going to act as a bridge inside of the early game, but if I'm evaluating these drafts holistically, I think the Solar Scarabs come away with a much, much better composition.
We argued the same thing in Game 1, and having the better comp, it gets you into the game.
That's right.
You then got to get into the game and execute things down the stretch. I think Tiamat versus Morgan could be a pretty interesting mid lane matchup here, but I think Hunbats versus Robin, and we've talked about Johnny versus Scream as maybe one of the, if not the most important matchups here in this set. Something a little bit more active in the early game now on this Robin. You could farm up a little bit on the Loki if you're Johnny. In this game, you're Robin, you need to be active.
You do. I think it's around that second item where Robin hits his real curve of getting active on the map, but certainly around like levels 1 through 5, you are very capable of getting involved, and he actually does so on the Loki as well. I mean, it was first blood for him at like the minute mark, and I think he's in a position now where he can try and reprise that performance here in Game 2. And he's still got decent scaling. We actually got into a big argument during the SCC, Aggro and I, about the relative value of Robin.
You and I have never argued once.
No, not a single time.
All right, relative. Aggro's not here, so what do you think the relative value of
I think Robin's really good, and I actually turned Aggro around on it too. That god is strong.
Right, and the pick rate's still somewhat low here. I think 5 is what we've seen up to this point, so this is now maybe the 6th pick. Can the Valhalla Valkyries win up against the Solar Scarabs? We call it a must-win for the Scarabs, and they must win in Game 2 to push us to a game number 3. Let's start it off.
Man, what a big win and a big start for the Valkyries to take Game 1 off the Scarabs, and now with their backs against the wall yet again, the Scarabs need to find a Game 2 win. It's J-Mac Tucker and Gorham Meiser with Doug on the camera to bring the action. And man, what a composition that the Scarabs were able to run away with. A Cerberus, top pick for a solo lane. You get Hunbats, who's been showing that his return has been on fire recently, specifically Captain Twig has really been strutting his stuff with this god. And then you get, Tiamat Terra on the tail end of everything. Scarabs, they got a good draft. The Valkyries, they've drafted something what I would really just call a Valkyrie-style draft.
Yeah, I mean, it feels just, like their team, right? I feel like I've seen less the Morgan lately for Xeris, but it is a good pick for them. Same thing for Emilito on this Heimdall. Something that we haven't seen as often lately, but just fits really well. I am really, really excited to watch the jungle in the solo lane here for the Valkyries, because it's been a hot minute since I've seen Ducky on Hercules, and as well as this Robin. I mean, they were just talking about it on the desk, but it's a pick that has a lot of potency available to it, but at the same time, you're up against Hunbats, right? When it comes down to team fights, you know Hunbats is better.
Root just off the mark by Johnny. Stun is on the mark for Zeros, and now they're going to chase the Tiamat in the jungle. Scream in the backline, trying to play Disruption. Dark Omen hits, and a beads at a Baronic, and immediately Johnny blinks in and finds him. Prada Onslaught gets first blood. The Valkyries on the board.
I was going to give him, I was done. The minute you got the beads, that was a win to me. But they got the kill on top of it. Yeah, no, Johnny does a great job sticking to that, and that is a good early start once again for the Valkyries. Although last time, what was it? They got 3 kills in the first few minutes, which was a wild swing to be able to pick up. At least you stem the bleeding comparatively. And I will, I have to throw it out there. The Scarabs will be the first to admit it. They are not good in game number 1. Don't know why. Still trying to figure that one out. We have our top scientists on it, but I have no clue what it is about game number 1s and the Scarabs. They just don't mix. And so this should theoretically be a good game for them. This is a good start and a great pluck.
Ooh, inbound in danger. Doesn't have his dash available. If Raffer and Emil can slow him down, it's a blink in by Raffer. He'll find Stewart, but a monolith drop down means that inbound will be able to make it out. No pluck is going to pull him back just yet, but I think it was actually even inbound who put it out on Twitter yesterday. It said something about us. How do you win games 1 and games 3? Somebody let me know, and maybe somebody needs to let Scream know just how much damage Johnny can do. But now with SOT rotating over, could be a quick pick here for the Solar Scarabs. Johnny down to half health. Don't think he's got that overhead kick available. Prawn Onslaught slows him down, but he does get the cooldown available to him, but it's not enough. Scream with the Sacred Monkey Toss gets one, and Ducky just has to sit by and watch as his jungler falls.
And this is a brave positioning for Ducky, but he gets the buff, and he should be able to walk out of here with that beads early on. Didn't even notice that originally, but both Solar Troll and Ducky have the beads, so you burn it, but you still get your blue buff. And so ultimately, I guess you lose your jungler. You're sad about that part, but you're happy you didn't die too.
You're happy you got your blue buff. Maybe that's the bigger win there for Ducky. Obviously losing.
I don't know. Did you see his player cam? Ducky didn't seem happy.
No, Ducky's guys.
I don't know if that was focus or upset.
It could have been both. It could have been some upset focus. Inbound will use the Monolith to dash away. Emil throws out a Bifrost, but I don't think he realized where his second crystal was. Oh, actually, no, he knows exactly where it's at. It's on the other side of the map. Could have been a good cutoff point, but he doesn't elect to go any further with that fight. Back to a stalemate here as the Scarabs have closed up that gold lead that was earned from that first blood. You see SOT and Ducky now hitting level 5 and Scream hitting 5 before Johnny, but Scream doesn't have any mana to his name just yet. He'll have to go back to base, and ooh, Johnny eats a nice chunk of damage there from Baronic on that Tiamat.
Yeah, really good showcasing, I think, here for Baronic to be able to get the Tiamat. You should look good on this, and I think that's the biggest thing, right? We know Xeros can play this Morgan really well, but Baronic is maybe in the proving grounds just on this Tiamat as to what the Scarabs are going to be able to provide. I mean, you had mentioned, the desk had mentioned it, this is such a strong draft for the Scarabs, but I said the same thing last time. I look at this team, and if I see them get into a 5-on-5 team fight, theoretically, they should just so overwhelmingly control it that it's not even going to be that close for the Valkyries, but that's the same tune I was, playing last game. So we'll have to watch this early game from the Valkyries. And in transition into the mid, I don't think they have as much early on pressure as they did last time around. Johnny maybe now is going to be able to start providing a little bit more of it than what he did on Loki. But this is where I think we saw a lot of the strengths was the map play from the Scarabs. They were able to very early on get some Furies, steal away a Fury as well. They don't have that same technical level of play. And so it's going to come down to these ganks.
Scream teleports over, uses the Sacred Monkey and the Fear No Evil off the mark, but Ducky's stunned down. Now it's an ultimate from SOT that picks up Ducky and drops him right down. Johnny does have the ultimate available, but he's not going to use it to get the kill for SOT. He'll just use the Prana Onslaught. Overhand smash is good. Johnny needs a way out. He's got the ultimate. Why hasn't he used it? He'll use it to go ahead and try and break the ankles of Scream, but a blink in. Make sure that Scream closes the gap until the stun from Zeros makes sure to back him away, but Scream is not giving up just yet. I think Johnny may have recognized this, but can he turn this fight around in his favor? That's a whole other question.
I think if you have a little assistance, which soon enough, guess what you're going to have? Hercules alongside you would Scream.
There's no way.
If he sees him start the blue buff, I'd go for that speed buff, but he might just go for the kill.
It's the 1v1 between the junglers, and Scream already has the upper hand. Overhead smash used, and one more basic, plus the somersault. Scream able to put him down, but now Ducky is here. No mana on Scream, and he's already used his leap. Can Ducky close it? Rapper is here, and he's going to interrupt one hit, and Scream just needs to find a way over the wall. Pluck hits a minion. Unfortunate for Rapper, and that's going to make sure that Scream gets out.
You feel that every ounce of your being in the Valkyries right there. I mean, a little bit of pressure on Raffer because he hits the minion with it, but you also have to look at the little amounts. You are so low as Johnny. I kind of expected it. He saw Scream walk that way.
Inbound takes about half of his health combo from Rapper and Zeros. Now Inbound will get thrown back against the wall. Sprint popped by Inbound just to try and run away from the Croc. He'll take the damage from lurking in the waters, but not much more beyond there. Ducky, surprisingly, still sitting with a nice little level advantage despite all this action happening in solo lane. He'll be sitting comfortably at 7 where SOT just now ticks over. Johnny going for that little 1v1 may not have been the most fun for him, though he did what damage he could. However, with this Jotun's Wrath online and maybe looking for more, Rapper goes with the pluck, only finds nobody with it. It'll be a tail whip at the tail end, and Johnny gets slammed against the wall, and that's an easy pick for someone with no beads.
Yeah, Scream, look, this is where Johnny was last game. He's 3-0-1. He's providing so much pressure for his team. The fact that he got out of that last play in this right side jungle was already ludicrous for them, but now being able to isolate and kill off Johnny, Johnny is the linchpin, it has felt like, for this team, and there's still a lot of room for that to continue being the route, but if they keep this pace up for the Scarabs, then we're going to see a much more large gap between these two in about 5 minutes, and then they should be able to just start rolling with the punches and really finding themselves a win.
No Zoom Orb here for Zeros. It will actually be a Charon's Coin. We've typically been seeing the Doom Orb coupled with this. The Morrigan gives her a little bit of extra movement speed, as I like to say. You put on the Zoomies to bring the Doomies, but not going to bring it here in game number 2, or at least not in that route. It'll be a lost artifact for a second item, so could be going for some extra cooldown reduction, something that Morrigans love because of how long that ultimate is in the early stages of the game. What is it, like 140 or 160 second cooldown on that ultimate at rank 1?
Yeah,
you feel it.
You feel that. You transform once, if you do not get any benefits from your first ult, you're very sad about it. I mean, it is such a long time. I mean, almost 3 minutes that you're having to sit, and admittedly balanced because of what you're doing for your ultimate, but it's just so long to have to deal with it. And so far, Zeros has been really quiet. I mean, there have been quite a few moments where I expected a bigger rotation from him. That hasn't happened. And a few moments where, he's just been shy of getting the damage done, or the stun gets beads out before he's able to really follow through. And so I'm going to keep my eye on this Morrigan just because I feel like it has so much potential built up behind it. But if we actually get to see any of that is a different story.
Well, it's a 1,500 gold lead for the Scares. They've been able to amass themselves early on in the game. Only 8 minutes in, 4-2 are the kills. And, well, 3 of those 4 kills are in the hands of Scream, but he's been a part of all 4 of them. So keep your eyes on the jungler for the Scarabs. He is going to be the one trying to continue making waves for his team at level 10 compared to the level 8 Robin. Johnny has not had that same level of success as his opposition. Ducky, he's going to try and go for a box up against SOT, but with that dash used, he's going to force the beats from Ducky. The Fear No Evil is good, but Ducky trying to make it back to the tower. A quick response of his ultimate gets him out of one. A double push under the tower, trying to turn the fight back around, but can he turn around enough? No, he will not. Scream with the overhead smash. Grabs him under the tier 1.
Yeah, this has been the exact inverse of game number 1. Valhalla, Valkyries, Ducky, and Johnny were like the pilots of the entire game through the duration of it. With a little bit of sprinkling of, again, Zeros with some great plays later on. So far, it's just been, what can the Valkyries get back?
Needs a big ultimate to take down SOT, or maybe just some help from Raph for a leap over and leap out for Zero. Scream will chase him down and pick him up. Johnny is now back in the midst of the fight. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but still looking for even more. Johnny does have his ultimate available, used it to disengage. Inbound dashes in with 4 members of the Scarabs pushing down their jungler. There's no reason why you shouldn't be running away. Johnny used the tier 1 tower as safety, but with 4 Scarabs on his tail, not sure if this jungler is going to make it out. Her hit kick is good, but not long enough to save his life. Scream will grab and extend the Scarabs kill count to 7.
This is, again, good engagements. You only lose SOT in that, and you've got Scream sitting at 6-0-1. I don't think you are sad about anything that's going on right now. Scream is playing out of their mind. And with these Fear No Evils, especially one coming back up, Gold Fury's right around the corner. This is a really good position for the Valkyries, or sorry, for the Scarabs to be in, especially since they're looking to collapse on Immel.
Immel in danger. He'll have to use his beads and a quick Bifrost to get himself out. He'll go just far enough to where Inbound cannot chase him. And now it's Raffer, who's in a bit of a sticky situation. He'll get caught out by the root, and he'll dash towards the tower with nowhere to go. Might as well just fight, at least go down fighting as best that he can, but who's going to get the kill? Unfortunately, it's Scream who picks up his 7th kill. All 8 kills he has been a part of, and 7 of them have gone towards his name. Ducky uses his own ultimate to immune SOTs, but SOT did this last time. There was 2 of them. Might need the extra help to get the kill. Ducky will dash away, and now with backup from Johnny, SOT may be the one turned on. Ghastly Breath goes out to mitigate wounds, but the stun from the paralyzing spit, the CC is not even necessary. It's just the damage. SOT's trying to find a way over that wall. Johnny will root him in place. A good Prana onslaught. The beads keep him from going down too much further. And a Fear No Evil. Scream is back. And goodbye, Johnny.
All right, so good news, bad news time. Bad news.
Okay.
Scream's 7-0-2, and you just floundered a kill, unfortunately, against SOT.
Right.
And gave up a double kill over to the solo laner. Not a good position to be in. Good news.
Okay.
If you kill Scream, that's a big bounty.
Yeah, that's massive.
I mean, it's a big if as well at this point. But if you're able to do so, I mean, there's a 3-level difference in the jungle that will really help, equalize things if Johnny's able to find that kill. But that's where the biggest difference is right now, and admittedly, the gold is really starting to show up. You can see tier 3 items that are being finished, maybe tier 1 items that are getting picked up after those tier 3s here as the second item for the Scarabs. Well, that experience in the jungle is really going to start being felt because you've got a 2-level lead over the opposing mid laner, 2-level lead over the solo laner, 4-level lead, 5-level lead, 4, did the math right first time, over Raffer, things like that.
I've got a question for you, Gormizer.
Hopefully I've got an answer.
So there's a Morgan in this game, correct?
Yep.
And there's a Hoonbots in this game, correct?
Yep.
Why have we not seen a Morgan Hoonbots transformation? Why are we only seeing these Robin transformations out of Zeros so far?
Because Zeros is making bad choices.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all the answer.
And I mean that in more ways than one. Not just the ultimate. I just haven't seen him impact any of these fights the way that he should be so far.
I mean, if you have the opportunity to have a Hoonbots on your team, yes, they took Hoonbots away, and that was one thing that we were kind of going over, while the desk was doing their segment. We kind of talked a little bit about, where does Johnny go with his pick? Now that they've, they banned the Tsukiyomi themselves, the Loki got taken out.
And I'd like to throw out all of the picks that we thought were better for him did not get locked in.
Right, none of those got locked in.
We went through 4 different junglers.
And we also completely ignored the fact that there is a Hoonbots in the game. They could have picked up a Hoonbots and had 2 of those on their team. But now you at least have the opportunity to have 1 of those. And, let's not mince words. Hoonbots is kind of nuts right now. Captain Twig has been a perfect showcase, and let's ignore Captain Twig right now. Scream has been a perfect showcase for this Solar Scarabs team to show just how good that god is. The fact that Zeros has yet to use that transformation to get a Fear No Evil of themselves and try and impact those team fights, I'm going to say it's a little bit criminal here.
And honestly, I think that the Valkyries, especially the way they played in Game 1, was great. But this is a lot more of what I've come to expect of them. And that it's an unfortunate position to be in when this is more or less what you expect. This could be a good pick. I think they still have good ways to fight into this. But with the Scarabs amassing this lead, if they get this Gold Fury, you're really starting to get your backs against the wall, and you cannot be in that kind of position 14 minutes in.
Gold Fury down to half. Ducky in the back line. Misses the pluck, but still has the driving strike if he needs it. Raffer pulls SOT, and it's a quick leap out by the solo laner. Zeros in the back line. Goes for the ultimate, but doesn't get anybody with it. Stewart will manage to walk away. Had to use his beads to get out, but it's now Raffer in the waters, and a Fear No Evil out of Scream to turn the fight back around. Raffer has got a run, and SOT will just chase out. Zeros jump right over the stun, and Ducky will push Scream against the wall, and Zeros goes down.
Sot still has ult as well, so this is great aggression. There's that Stygian Torment.
Emil with the Bifrost gets out of danger for the time, but the Valhalla Valkyries have to walk away. There's no way they can keep this fight going, especially with SOT bullying their support. Raffer has nowhere to go. Johnny may be caught out now. He doesn't have that overhead kick anymore as he just used it. He'll get stunned. The ghastly breath is too much, and Baronic gets the kill. 12 on the board for the Solar Scarabs, and already a 4,000 gold lead about to get even worse.
Ducky's still here with Boulder, though. That is a great opportunity for the Valkyries to take this.
Ducky waiting by. SOT trying to get the perfect timing on the CC, or maybe they don't need Ducky. They can just get inbound to stun him out and take him down. 4 kills for SOT, and another one on the board for the Scarabs. Gold Fury goes their way, and the gold gets ever more out of control. 4,500, actually over 5,000 gold, closer to 5,500 now for the Solar Scarabs. And Emil, he walked back in a lane, and that might be all he gets to do is walk in lane.
Yeah, hang out here for a little bit. He's getting some decent damage against SOT. Ooh,
no.
Just... yeah, that one just hurts.
That was
down.
That was some Spain right there, but the S is silent.
They're living in it right now for the Valkyries, too. That is just unfortunate. I mean, that has been the game, though. The 3 kills they've got, admittedly all onto Johnny, but they just... I have not seen a big enough impact from them. The map play is going in favor of the Scarabs, and that was the way it was last game, except the Scarabs were losing all of the fights each time they did that. This time, you're winning all of the fights and winning the map play, and this is what we would have expected. I think, Mifflin had said it on the desk where he was referencing that, there was a must-win, especially, and I'm going to throw it out there. The Scarabs were saying they were easily a top 5 team and that they were going to prove it here in Phase 3. So far, I've been unfortunately falling shy. I think they've done a really great job pushing a lot of top teams to 3, but they are still 0-3 in the standings, right? They haven't been able to amass that. And as much as, there is that thought, the Dragons would have been a must-beat team to prove that statement true. The Valkyries, if you are going to have a statement like that out there ever, or if, you're going to look at these as self-inflicted wounds, should be a must 2-0 for you. And the fact that this is... Admittedly, this game going a lot more in favor of what you would expect. They need to figure out Game 1, man. I'm looking at the Scarabs' grand scheme, and I don't know what it is about it. But they got to figure it out. If it means playing a Conquest together prior You just got to do it.
Maybe you come in with the mental that you've already lost game 1 and you're playing like it's game 2 to start it out. Maybe that's what they need. But, well, maybe then that causes then game 2 to turn into game 3. But then what does game 4 look like for the Scarabs? We haven't had a chance. Have we had a chance to see what a game 4 for
they got 3-0
Scarabs?
the only playoffs they made it
Okay,
to.
so far we haven't got to see a game 4 Scarabs. Maybe it's a little bit of the inverse. So maybe it's those even games for the Scarabs that are the most impactful for them. We'll see how it goes here in potentially game number 3. The Solar Scarabs are looking to run away with this one. 7,000 gold up over the Valkyries.
I've got good news for the Scarabs.
Okay.
The group stage of Phase 3 is all best of 5s.
Well, there's
a good opportunity to potentially see
Now we might get to see
game
it.
4 of what the Scarabs have to offer. It's just, it is so wild how night and day this team has looked. And admittedly, it is not necessarily just them. I think they look decent in game 1 as well. It's just that Johnny looked better. Ducky looked better. You look at this now, Ducky's 0-4 has had virtually no impact on this game in the grand scheme of things versus what his Odin was able to provide. Johnny, while he is all of the kills the Valkyries have, I can't remember the last time I saw an impactful play from this Robin right now, and that's saying something. Your jungler, especially in this meta, and look at Scream, 12 out of 14 affected kills, is necessary to look good. We haven't seen a lot of good transformations out of Zeros, and Immel's just been doing his best to stay alive half the time. I think that what you're looking at it. Yeah, he's doing a great job of that. Look, thumbs up on all accounts by not dying, but it is not by any means showcasing anything that is hopeful to turn this game around. And that's the problem right now. I think the Scarabs are in a great position. They are controlling this game and playing it the exact way they need to. And the way things are going with them, especially, look, all the relics they have up, all the ults they have up, they don't need a Fire Giant to be able to pressure out tier 2s.
And your frontliners are so underleveled, and trying to put up a soft tier 2 defense, SOT, he'll be able to walk away, no problem. Raffer gets hit by the Cyclone, knocked up, and over half of his health already gone. Meanwhile, Inbound can just drop a Monolith right in the middle of everything and heal himself and his team right back up. Zeros gets a stun against SOT, and now Zeros in with the transformation of his own, but it's a 4
What a Fear No Evil!
by Scream to separate the entire team fight. Inbound gets thrown through the realms, and Zeros picks him up on the tail end, but it's SOT with an even bigger ultimate. He throws 3 right back in. He'll pick up 2 of his own. Johnny doing his best to try and help him out, but Scream takes him down, and it's only Ducky, the lone survivor of the Valkyries.
Hey, like, if this team had Fire Giant, and honestly, even if they don't, you at least get this tier 2. You should be able to get FG. Look how long you have before anybody's back. A Phoenix is easily accomplished here, and you might be able to end the game. It might be a little risky. You've got some low health bars, and there will be some respawns. But you have a lot of power and a lot of punch here if you're the Scarabs. You've got such a massive lead. You've got 4 levels in the jungle, 5 levels in the solo lane. I mean, yeah, Ducky just has to sit back and watch, because what's he going to do? He's a level 15 Hercules.
Yeah, not much.
Inbound is almost that level.
Yeah, really not much there. Let's take a look back at that team fight. We can just maybe see from Scream's first-person perspective on that Fear No Evil. A huge ultimate. That is a dream for any Hunbots player, for any god that has an AoE ultimate of that size. It is an absolute dream to find 4 people, and he finds like it's absolutely nothing. Just toss it right in the middle of everybody.
I mean, like you said, maybe like the perfect dream just for the Scarabs team fight. To get 4 with the Fear No Evil, then 3 with a Stygian Torment. I'm drooling at the thought of that happening if I am playing. That is just such a good combo to be able to find yourselves. You get a Phoenix on the back end of it. You've affected 16 now out of 18 kills of your Scream. I mean, you are absolutely on fire if you're the Solar Scarabs this game. And I think that they are playing the exact way that I expected them to play today. But admittedly, a little bit of a fumble in game 1. This is more or less what kind of fire I wanted to see out of this team.
So right now we're kind of in these territories of gods that we must see banned away, whether it be by player or just by god in nature. Ullr is one of those ones that teams are just saying, yeah, we don't want to play against that. If you are not first pick, you're banning Ullr. I'm starting to get in that same realm here with this Hunbots. If you are not a first pick team, you might want to start looking to ban this Hunbots away, because the level of impact this god has been able to have, and even with a couple of the losses that he's had, it is absolutely no surprise how much this god can do with a single Fear No Evil is all it takes to turn a team fight. And even with the Scarabs, yeah, they were already up in that fight, 8,000 plus gold. So you're expecting Fear No Evil is going to do something. But when you can get this level of impact, it effectively halted any potential progress the Valkyries had. And now with it, the Solar Scarabs are able to start setting up for this Fire Giant. Yeah. If I'm looking at game 3 here, I'm probably saying get rid of this Hunbots, get rid of the Ullr, whatever else you need to, and get Johnny on something comfortable and maybe get Raffer a little bit of help here. Scream is is just running him down on the Toon bots, and SOT will make sure try and punish him. But through the realms from Emil will catch out inbound. He'll be launched right back under the tower, but SOT picks up Raffer, and inbound somehow is able to still make it out. Are you kidding? He was under the tower. Why is he not dead yet?
Yeah, inbound is so nonplussed by that play. Now they're going to be able to get engaged. If you're wondering what your solo laner looks like when they fall behind, that's the answer. Just immediately eviscerated. This is just good play from the Scarabs.
Yeah, Scarabs pick up 3 at the tier 2 tower, and the rest of the
might just
Valkyries,
win.
they try and go for this mid-tier 1, but that mid-tier 1 maybe all that is they're going to be able to get from
they
it.
just
It is
win.
a Phoenix wipe on the right side and 2 left to defend, but both of them do have their ultimate. Keep your eyes on Zeros. Keep your eyes on those potential transformations. The frenzy pop by inbound, and the backline goes Johnny trying to find Stewart, but he just got crit for almost 500. Zeros goes in, and for the first time gets a 5-man Fear No Evil, but as soon as he grabs it, he is already gone. SOT picks him up, and the Solar Scarabs clean up game number 2 to tie up the set.
Yeah, the Scarabs were just impressive that game. I mean, you got to see it in the solo lane, you got to see it in the jungle, and you got to see a lack of that presence equally on the other side. The Valkyries, what they had in game 1, the magic that was there, just completely dissipated. And if it's just those picks, if banning Loki, it makes it that easy all of a sudden, and you got to figure something else out, because that Scarabs team, that was great.
Yeah, you got to put something on Scream a little bit less comfortable in Game 3 because that man was a menace in Game number 2. We'll see if the Valkyries can clean it up for Game 3 and maybe try and take this set back, or will it be the Scarabs coming out? Let's take it to a break, and we'll bring it right back to the desk.
went Jack into this one. Dude, this. No, I know he was supposed to take you out last weekend, but he got busy.
Welcome back to the SPL, everybody. Game 3 between the Valkyries and the Scarabs right around the corner. And if you want more behind-the-scenes action, more sit-downs, content with our players, go on over to youtube.com/SMITEPro. We've got 1v1s, we've got interviews, we've got stream slots where apparently everyone but me is getting wins with these pros. A whole lot of fun and more to be had at youtube.com/SMITEPro. Do you start off the shows, you and J-Mac. What do you think our win rate is in like those pre-content day sessions where one of us sits down with one of the pros and plays a game?
I am sitting undefeated. I think J-Mac's sitting at a 50%, and you're at
On
a 0.
I've played 1, and
Okay,
we lost.
so we've lost 2, and both weren't me. I've done it thrice. That's
I would argue
4 wins, 3 losses.
When I
4
play
wins,
with
2
the pros, it's similar to Pirates, where the real friends is the treasure you made along the way, and that's my case.
It's the MMR you get at the end of the game.
You're right. Let's talk about the Valhalla Valkyries and the Solar Scarabs here in game number 2, because game 2 wins, that's synonymous with the Solar Scarabs here at this point, and this one was important. If you lose this one, you lose the set to the Valhalla Valkyries. And Scream showed up big when his team needed him most.
Yeah, phenomenal individual plays from Scream. Really did shift up this one. Early rotations over towards the soul lane. A miraculous turnaround. 4-man ultimate inside of mid on a tier 2 tower. And just consistently there. I mean, this one he just comes in, saves SOT from certain doom, and Spoon feeds him a double kill. This Hunbots is a threat, man. I mean, with the itemization changes, you just gotta do something about this guy. I think he might be a ban.
This team fight in mid was wild. It was the transformation from Zeros that started off the fight. Then the 3-man Stygian Torment seals the deal after a 4-man Fear No Evil started the fight off for the Solar Scarabs. And this, and I say this with no disrespect to the Valhalla Valkyries, but this type of game is what we expected the Solar Scarabs to do in game 1. They do it here in game 2, and a chance to do it again in game 3. But the Valkyries have shown us that they can show up big in these games. So far from said and done is this set, but at 8-0-12 and at 9-2 and 9 for Scream and SOT respectively, it's going to be hard to find yourself a win. Stewart put on a good show as well at 4-0-10. Everyone played their roles here in this game for the Solar Scarabs, and I think that's the important thing to look at. And so I think the setup style, the Hunbat style of jungle looked great for Scream here. This time SOT got one of the priority picks in the solo lane in the Cerberus. And so I think picks and bans felt very good for the Solar Scarabs here in game 2. And so now more adjustments need to be made down the stretch for the Valhalla Valkyries, because I think in back-to-back games, Miff, we've left picks and bans thinking that the Scarabs have had the stronger draft.
Yeah, game 1, I'd say maybe like 7-3 in favor of the Scarabs in the draft. Game 2, that was like a 9-1. So I want to see some broad sweeping changes from the Valhalla Valkyries here. They are getting out-drafted left and right, and to their credit, we're able to win with what I would consider the weaker draft in game 1. So imagine what they'd do if they just like, I don't know, built well.
Right, I mean, look, a stronger draft gives you the advantage, but you've got to play the game better ultimately when everything is said and done. So I think first versus second pick will become very important here, because having that first pick, remember, even despite what Ducky said in the pregame interview about how Odin on ping is not the best feeling pairing, that first pick Odin looked great for the Valhalla Valkyries in game 1. So we'll see in picks and bans for game 3 which team is picking first, which team is picking second, and that might dictate what direction these first few bans go. Valhalla Valkyries in that first spot, Solar Scarabs in the second spot. And the Scarabs let Odin through. You know, all of that being said, that means the Scarabs left Odin open after the first wave of bans in game 1. Might be an adjustment here for the Scarabs. You don't want Ducky to get another shot.
No, even if Ducky does not like it, you said it best, man. He made that team fight look so much better for the Valhalla Valkyries. The laning phase went their way as well, so we'll keep our eyes on them as they do elect to just go ahead and keep banning out this Uller. Don't want to deal with Stewart there on the other side. And Loki from the Solar Scarabs, I like that, man. Johnny's been on a tear on this pick recently, so don't want to have him go straight towards it.
Yeah, a strong start to the picks and bans for the Valkyries, following up with the Cerberus after a good game from SOT. And I wondered if we would see this from the Scarabs. We talked a lot about the Odin and whether Ducky would allow have it fall to his lap in that first pick spot. The answer is no, and so that is the first big pivot from the game number 1 picks and bans that we saw just a little bit ago. Hunbats is going to get taken away from Scream and the Solar Scarabs. Such a great pick right now, especially for Scream, who loves to set up for the rest of his team. And then Ardio will continue to not get played. I would think, since Phase 3 has started, I think over the last 2 weeks, Ardio's been, what, close to 100% pick ban, you think?
I think she's there, yeah, for Phase 3 so
Maybe
far.
even 100% ban. I don't know. I don't know the last time I've seen Ardio.
Not quite. It's close, though.
Like, was it literally last game? Oh, she wasn't picked or banned last game.
Oh, thanks, Gore.
Thank you, Gore. I was like, I was watching. Was she in the last game? My heart sank for a moment that almost looked horrible.
Shot.
Unbelievable. All right, so still doesn't look great because she wasn't picked or banned in the last game, which still is wild to me.
Is that the only game?
Must be. All right, now we're digging ourselves into a hole.
Yeah,
here,
that is
who
the
knows?
only game she goes unpicked or banned. I'm going to dig my heels in.
So that looks a little bit better for us
Yes.
because it does not happen often, and when it happens so frequently, you can kind of gloss over the individual outliers. Ardio's good. She gets pick banned a lot. That's what we're trying to say here. Solar Scarabs are going to ban her away this time. Geb gets locked in first for the Valkyries. Geb has also risen way, way up as far as pick ban numbers go here. It's left open, and the Valkyries want him first.
Yeah, so that's why I'm so interested to see the Solar Scarabs go towards that Sylvanas immediately. You got to think that they had the opportunity to pick just about anything there. It's a very low likelihood that the Valkyries pick up a Sylvanas in conjunction with the Geb, so the Solar Scarabs could have opened up one more pick slot for themselves, but instead do take Sylvanas in that first phase and match it up with the Heimdall. So dual lane of the Solar Scarabs fully on display here, and it's got decent pressure, decent survivability, but the Valkyries, I guess they think that that's the
100% win rate.
You're right. One game played. It was earlier on in this set. The Valkyries think they found themselves the winning combination here. Chang'e locked in, and I like the god. The performance was good. The ultimates were finding their way home. Multi-man stuns, great healing, the phenomenal survivability. I think this is one that could definitely work out for Zeros.
Do you think the hit rate, the impact of Chang'e is kind of directly tied to that ultimate? Like, there were moments where Zeros was hitting three-person ults, and the team fight just rolled for the Valkyries after that. Or is there some good value in this pick, even outside of the chain CC, the lockdown stun that ult provides?
Yeah, I mean, just the healing and the anti-heal in of its own is incredibly strong. The third ability not only dealing damage to enemies, but also healing your allies and anti-healing your enemies, I think is just a phenomenal ability. Chang'e's second ability, the Moonlit Waltz, is very similar to Ravan's overhead kick in that it is essentially beads and Aegis built into one ability. Unfortunately for Chang'e, it does not deal damage like Ravan's does, but instead gives you a little bit more mana after you absorb a couple of hits. I think this god is pretty alright, but she's inconsistent in that a lot of her abilities kind of force her into a pseudo melee range, which is not exactly where you want to be playing as a mage, especially considering how strong assassins are right now.
Yep.
But Chang'e is not intrinsically tied to her ultimate so much so. As long as you're able to hit 2 targets, you're probably doing all right.
Yeah, you're feeling okay. Not fun against assassins that are doing well right now, and Tsukuyomi is one of those assassins, Myth, that is doing very, very well right now, and that's who Scream will be piloting here in game number 2, or game number 3 rather. You imagine Piercing Moonlight's going to be a free ticket into that back line for this pick, and that's where Chang'e might have to spend some of those cooldowns on self-peel and getting the Tsukuyomi off. Sylvanas has been a very popular pick here for the Solar Scarab specifically. We've seen Sylvanas on the rise in Phase 3 of Season 8 so far in general. But I think that this is a pick that if Inbound is able to get, he is happy about it, and first pick for the Solar Scarabs would certainly indicate that.
It does. I mean, that minor rework, man, I think a lot of people are still sleeping on it. The amount of cooldown you get is actually legitimately incredibly high, and now you've got yourself a very steadfast front line inside of the Solar Scarabs. I mean, Blink Engage from Sylvanas, and then you've got, Cyrus in there with you, could create a lot of space for gods like Heimdall or whatever mage you elect to pick up for the Solar Scarabs to operate, as the Valkyries take a very immobile ADC up against a Tsukuyomi.
Is that Panda Cat on the 100% win rate? It's got to be, right?
I believe so. I don't love the AMC into Tsukuyomi matchup, though. I mean, Piercing Moonlight to close gap. Amuzan Cobb kind of stuck there. You got to disarm once you close gap. It's going to be pretty hard for this AMC to survive if he ever falls behind.
And then you got a Merlin in the mid lane to just pour out that damage. I think we're trending in the same direction here, Miff, where if I ask you to cover up the names on top of the screen, we might be favoring the team over on the right.
I would say that the Valkyries do a better job this time around. Geb, Surket, and Sobek all incredibly strong picks.
Yeah, very
phenomenal front line, great engage, decent survivability thanks to the Stone Shield. So in that regard, is a little bit better this time around. But yeah, if I had to say, I think I still do favor the Solar Scarabs draft, but it's not nearly as far out of reach as it was in the last game.
Does a lot of that hinge in your eyes on the Tsukuyomi into both of the carries that the Valkyries have selected?
Tsukuyomi actually not very good into Chang'e. Piercing Moonlight only teleports you to your target once you've applied that damage, so the Moonlit Waltz can just avoid the majority of that. So Chang'e decent into Tsukuyomi, AMC not really so much so, neither into Osiris either. I mean, once you're close gap on him, you've got the tether to damage mitigate, the slows as well. No leap from AMC means that he's kind of stuck there. Yeah, I think the AMC selection is a lot of it, but maybe the AMC and Chang'e together just being so unorthodox kind of adds up to some hesitation on my part.
I'm assuming that it'll be Geb's support with this AMC, and that'll put Sobek over in the solo lane. What do you think about Sobek plus Ducky here? Because Ducky has seemed pretty versatile as far as his god pool goes. We've seen Ducky play a lot. Sobek, I think, is one that he might be able to make look good here in Game 3.
Oh, I think so. I mean, he said it in the interview. He's not expecting to see too much fighting inside the lane. So Sobek, definitely one that can just kind of sit there, survive, soak up some farm, and then eventually rotate into a team fight and essentially act as a secondary support. And I think that's something that Ducky is very familiar with playing. A very good style for him.
You know what feels good, Miff? Ducky has played 6 gods in the last 6 games, right? When I'm talking about all the variety that he has played. So now it's going to be 7 gods in the last 7 games for Ducky. Can the Valhalla Valkyries win a set? Will the Solar Scarabs be the ones who take it? Game number 3 right now.
The biggest game on the line for both of them. The Valkyries' best chance at getting a win. The Scarabs with a must-need win here. Both these teams sitting completely defeated, 0-3 on the standings. So the one who comes out here on top will be the one with the first win of these two, which means that the other one will be sitting at number 8 in the standings, and the Scarabs, for how much they've been talking themselves up, they definitely don't want to be at the bottom of the standings here in Week 3.
You have to remember, you only play each team once, so every single set loss matters. You know, being 0-3 right now for both of these teams is not an ideal spot. In fact, unless they win, so obviously one of them isn't going to be in this circumstance. Unless they win, I believe, every single game from here on out, and then a couple of the top teams lose every single game, their chances of going into the top 3 after losing the set, sorry, top 2, that's the one that matters, dramatically diminishes to the point where I'm pretty certain I can say it's 0.
Yeah, there's not much.
So they only have 3 more matches after that?
Right, and there's not many opportunities left to get back there. I mean, most of the top teams are sitting at, you know, the 3-1 or the 2-2 already. So, you know, the Warriors have the next shot. They've got at least 1 win under the belts at the time, but they still got quite a competition to go up against. They still got quite a few top teams that they have to play against. In fact, one of those is right after this one. So they're going to see where everybody falls in line. Zeros has been taking a lot of damage from Scream and Baronic here in this mid lane. And with all due respect, it is a Merlin and a Tsukuyomi. Some decent ranged poke from the Merlin and some close range and then some long range poke that can come from that Tsuki.
Yeah, and Scream Tsukuyomi the other day looked insane to the point where they actually banned it last game, the Valkyries, knowing that that is something that is worth being worried about. Unfortunately, they didn't get Scream to wait for his pick, so they weren't able to limit the jungle. And admittedly, overall, I expect a little bit more out of what we saw. Well, not more from last game from Scream. That was nuts. I actually think it's going to slow down a little bit from Scream. But a little bit more from Johnny this time around on the Surket, especially with taunts like that. I mean, if you're able to connect on 2-man taunts, that's where we've seen the Surket really being a driving factor lately.
Uh-oh, Ducky trying to go for the solo kill against SOT, but he'll miss immediately after that blink. Not enough damage to drop the solo laner. So SOT gets to live another day. He's got plenty of health potions to keep him nice and topped off. He can pick up a chalice and health potions. Already burned through the chalice. Pull off by inbound. Just off the mark against Emil, and that could have spelled disaster for this AMC. No inherent mobility as far as a dash is concerned. Has to depend on the movement speed from the hives. Johnny want to make something happen here in the solo lane. SOT blinks away out of fear just from Johnny and Ducky stepping up.
And honestly, I mean, if you get a good taunt or a good pluck, you are going to get a lot of health dealt to you or a lot of damage dealt to you in a very quick amount of time. And based on how low he was just from Ducky, I think that's admittedly, like you said, kind of an interesting blink to see it happen that quickly, but also one that keeps you very much safe, considering this first blood, I think both games now, has gone towards the Valkyries. And so something you need to be worried about, especially if Johnny's going to be a little more proactive. I mean, we got to see the Raven for the first few levels of game number 2, but then eventually the Scarabs were just so far ahead that he wasn't able to impact it. Even now, I mean, it's very slight, but the Scarabs have started to pull a small lead.
And one of the benefits you do get to see out of AMC, we don't get to see him very much, is that he can place those hives all down the lane, all up and around, as every time he goes back to base, he can drop another one on his path back towards the lane, so he gets a little bit of extra movement speed, a little bit of extra attack speed, and some healing. Those hives do a lot, and SOT now might feel the wrath of a level 5 Johnny. Ultimate is good, and SOT is looking for a path out, but he's not going to find it. Gets a stun against Johnny, but Ducky is right behind, trailing him. The potions are gone, and Ducky will flip him right to his death. Another first blood for the Valkyries here in Game 3.
And a good kill for them to be able to pick up. They show a lot of control, but you do have to burn Johnny's ult in the process, which, grand scheme, isn't necessarily the worst case scenario. You're looking for picks like that if you are using your ult. But ideally, you get them that low or that controlled, maybe find a kill a little bit quicker for them. Ultimately, they're just happy to be able to get another first blood on the board. Especially because, and this is the dual lane that I'm very interested in seeing. I think inbound's Sylvanas has been insane, but Raffer has been around for a long time, and Geb has been in the meta for a long time, and bounced back and forth, I would argue, between meta and non-meta. So I'm anticipating a lot. But Emil, I've seen some of his best performances on these gods that used to be great when he was playing at his highest level, like the Amus and Cobb, like the Kronos we saw. Wow, that feels like a long, long time ago now that I'm thinking about it. That is
feels like a
while ago. I think that was in Phase 1. But even still, I've seen better performances overall from those than maybe some of the meta picks. So I'm excited to watch what he does with this.
One thing, it took me a moment to remember exactly what it was, but those little bitty boxes that were sitting back after that pull from inbound or any of those abilities tossed out, those new pods from his passive. Pick one of those up and you get 0.25 seconds off of all of your cooldowns across the board. That's not just your first ability, or your second or your third, that's also your ultimate. So a nice little change to Sylvanas' passive here, and it's pretty good. And when you hit level 20, it goes up to a 1-second cooldown reduction across the board.
That seems even better.
And it's also getting buffed later. It's going to be level 17 sooner rather than later. I think it's 8.10 when that one will come through, so you'll be able to get that just a little bit sooner, because it's not too often that you do get a hit. It's not very often you get a hit level 20 as a support, so being able to at least have that additional bit of the passive will be nice.
All supports bleeding from the nails as they try to claw their way to level 20.
Come on, guys. I need that wave. I'm so close.
I am a very big fan of having that drop down to 17. Plus, it matches with the starter item, so it makes a lot of sense in the grand scheme of things. Feels good. Of course, with the way Sylvanas has been performing lately, it's going to be, I mean, a good hefty buff to him. We'll see if maybe that jumps his priority for a lot of these other teams. Because, like, Scarabs, Kings, a couple of other teams have had him on the radar, but not as many have been willing to lock him in, especially not as highly as they have. But I like Inbound's performance on him so far the last few times we've gotten to see it. I'm excited to see, again, the good pulls that are capable of it. Good news is the Chang'e theoretically will be able to see them coming and maybe juke them out. Serket's got a lot of mobility. You've got Geb shields on your side. There's a lot of, control, I think, against Inbound. But that doesn't mean a good pick's still not going to happen every now and then.
I think, now, I'll probably get called out here, and some we'll definitely check, but I think we've only seen 3 supports so far this phase pick the Sylvanas up, Inbound being the most active of them, and then Genetics and Rongyu have been big proponents of it. Johnny gets pulled in, used an ultimate immediately against Scream and a Cataclysm, forced out the Piercing Moonlight. He's dashing, but it's only Johnny who's getting hit by the damage. SOT caught in the middle and stunned out, looking for a way out, but he gets plucked right back into the clutches of the Valkyries. It's another kill on the board. This time, Zero's credited for him. Baronic super low on mana. Ducky is trying to find a path in. It's Raffer goes in, and Johnny picks up Scream. Baronic knocked away with a shockwave, and Inbound surrounded by 4. The Valkyries put up a 4-kill swing and 5 on the board.
Okay, Valkyries, where the hell were you in Game 2, man? This is so vastly different from the start they had, and it makes me wonder a little bit. And this is by no means bad picks for the Scarabs. This is a good Scarabs draft. You heard it on the desk. I'll openly say this has been some of their best performers in general this year. the Valkyries, that is a good play. A lot of damage that comes out of Johnny, but good plays from Zeros. I really like Zeros on this Chang'e, and I do think that, admittedly, like in Game 2, you probably need the right things around it, and so sometimes you're not going to be able to lock it in as readily as you might want. But damn, if that healing and damage is not helpful. And you also have to think about it. Chang'e, we didn't talk about this much in Game 1, anti-heal. Inherently in the kit. If you do pick up a Divine Ruin, which with a Sylvanas on the other side might not be too out of the question, then you are 90% anytime you hit somebody with your 3 anti-heal. You are essentially a very small, admittedly, but walking Ankh that is going to be very helpful for your team. And it can be a massive swing for them. Plus, Divine Ruin's not a bad item to pick up in terms of power and everything else that it gives you. So it does feel good. And of course, that's why you see Baronic picking it up as well. Even if you're just getting the 40% from Divine Ruin, that is a baseline number that can help deal with small heals like Chang'e's or like Ducky is going to have. Also an anti-heal inside the Sobek.
Oh my lord.
Really, really good combos to help deal with inbound.
I just looked over and saw it's level 10 versus 7 in the solo lane. The Scarabs want to try and be a bit proactive on the map. Only Johnny is here to defend against the Gold Fury. Emil on the way, and Zeros wrapping around. Stewart gets separated from the fight through the realms, tosses out one, Scream dives in the back against Emil, but they've dropped the Gold Fury, and ult from inbound only finds Zeros. A quick immunity steps away, stun only hits Emil, and Zeros is trying to find an option out. He will walk away if the Gold Fury is stopped, and Scream gets pulled back, and a Cataclysm takes him down, and another kill on the board for Johnny.
That is about the best case scenario you can think for that fight if you're the Valkyries. Admittedly, there's maybe some wiggle room in an alternate universe, a couple more kills. Who cares? You are able to not only thwart a Gold Fury early from the Scarabs, which is what helped them stay in Game 1 much longer, but you push them back, you lower a lot of that, you don't lose anybody in the process. A good play from Zeros to make sure that he doesn't die there. But Johnny hitting that taunt was the, just perfect. Right where you need it to be, on the target you need it to be against, and shutting down Scream. You had mentioned it was 10 at the time to 7, now 8 with Solar Ritual taking up to 8, but you're also 10-8 in the jungle here. Johnny's been able to amass a small lead. If he can keep up this level of play, this is exactly what they needed that they were missing in Game 2.
And this is perfect for Emil, because it's one thing that Mifflin was highlighting on the desk, that if this Tsukuyomi gets anywhere near the same C, you might just call him a dead B. But because that fight happened so far on the right-hand side of the map, Emil's not stressed at all. All he has to do is make sure not to die against Stewart, and he's done good about that so far. 0-0-1 and 0-0-0 for Stewart. And even in that last fight, Emil was willing to walk forward. He drops down the honey, drops down the swarm, and you see Scream targets Emil just a little bit, but Emil's really not deterred. He's got the backup of Zeros, and that little bit of healing from the Chang'e is enough to keep them alive. The Valhalla Valkyries up 6-0, 2,000 gold over the Solar Scarabs here 10 minutes in, and already looking like they want to try and potentially run away with this game. But it is only 10 minutes. We have seen this from many teams before. They pull an early lead, and then one team fight is all it takes to turn it around.
Yeah, it's been a really cursed thing to do against the Bolts lately. That's something you want to do.
10,000 gold is kind of the curse number. What was it? 20K against SK. If you hit 20K, that was like your losing tale because they were going to win. But against the Bolts, it's been 10K the last couple of days.
It's been an interesting dynamic for them, and nowhere near that amount of lead here for the Valkyries, so ultimately nothing too bad for the Scarabs. Although 6 kills definitely is a good showcase, I think, to start things off. A great pickup, and now they're looking to get aggressive. Johnny may be being too deep, but he's got to get. He's not too worried.
It's a 2 versus 3. Zeros and Emil now rotating over. Inbound in the middle of all of it. Cataclysm is good. The Stinger hits inbound. He has nowhere to run. Slowed down. He'll have to use his ultimate, but Johnny will taunt him right back in. And the ultimate just to secure the kill on top. It'll be Emil credited with the kill, and a 7th one marked for the Valkyries, continuing to push this early aggression.
And a lot of times I complain about overkill. And I am going to say, that feels a little bit like overkill.
That was a lot.
But at the end of the day, you get the kill. And you know what? Sometimes that's more worthwhile. I think that's always the balancing act. Yes, you commit a lot, and you are able to push out, zone out. You get a red buff steal, I do believe. No, it looks like that was secured by the Scarabs. Just not something Baronic's able to go grab. But it is something that is stripped away from them. Zeros now has a buff where Baronic is lacking. You get a kill, you get a tower. At the end of the day, all of those ults make it more worthwhile. This is good proactive play from the Valkyries, very, very lacking there in game number 2, and more oppressive than it was in game 1 to the point where they are controlling it. It's specifically thwarting that Gold Fury attempt. But the coerce that was so helpful in game number 1 for the Scarabs not being there makes it a lot easier for the Valkyries to start actually being in control of these neutral objectives. Granted, they're going to still need to win a pretty big fight. Their secure is what's lacking the most here. they've got a lot of control around these team fights so far.
Oh, SOT, watch out, man. A pluck from Ducky and a rotation from Johnny and Rapper
Good
and
body
top
blast.
back in. And SOT is as good as dead. The ultimate will just separate him for a little while longer, but it's just that last breath tick that takes him out. Another kill for Johnny that puts him at 3-0-5, 2-0-4 for Ducky. And this is what was able to win the Valkyries game 1, was get Johnny, get Ducky ahead, allow Zeros and Emil to just kind of free farm. And we're seeing that repeated here in game 2, or 3.
And I'm surprised to see, normally ganks like that, especially when 3 people show up, you think that you're going to start pressuring out, and with Merlin damage, I would start pressuring out a Gold Fury. You know you have good burn. But again, it's that lack of secure for both of these teams right now. You can burn it pretty quickly if you're the Scarabs in terms of like Gold Furies, Pyromancers, things like that. But all it takes is Zeros walking over with an ult and stunning all of you, swiping the Gold Fury away, potentially killing somebody in the process. And things just start to spiral out of control, mentally, at least in my eyes there. Especially with an Amus and Cobb hanging around. I think that Emilito, I mean, he's 1-0-1. We haven't got to see a whole ton of this just yet. But we know that AMC hits hard. You can see that damage now.
Gold Fury started up. The Honey dropped under the Fury to get some extra damage. Scream off to the sidelines. We'll throw some poke with the Caltrops, but it's a 2-man ultimate from Raph for a knock-up and a double Waxing Moon out of Zeros. Another big kill. Make that 2 for the Valhalla Valkyries. They push the Scarabs back.
That was such a good Circat ultimate from Johnny. The poison spread immediately from inbound onto SOT. Made it so much easier the minute he jumps that pops. If he had gone the other way and that popped, then the Scarabs are in a much worse position, at least kill-wise. Although they're still in a pretty bad position. Not only do they lose those 2 picks widely, but then a good Gold Fury pickup for the Valkyries as well. Gives them a lot of gold, 10-0 as of right now. I mean, this is, again, night and day from game number 2, but a lot more shades of game 1 coming. Not even shades. They're doing better than they did in game number 1. And this is what I've wanted out of the Valkyries. I've been missing it from the Valkyries. You can feel the burn that they have in this game.
You're saying, where was this in game number 2? I'm asking, where was this any other point during the season? Sure, they've had some all right early games against some of the other teams. I mean, the Dragons and the Leviathans, they were able to push both of those teams upwards towards 30 minutes of a game 1. But they have not looked this clean against any other team so far this phase. Really, even since their win up against the Scares back in phase number 2, this might be the cleanest Valkyries that we have seen in a long time.
Like you said, David mentioned it, but like the last time this team got a single game win was up against the Scarabs there in phase 2, week 4, I believe. Not only that, it's been an 11-set loss streak for them since then. Their max, prior to that one win they had against the Scarabs, was 13 in a row. And so this is something that is a big turnaround for them. 1, trying not to break their own record, ideally. But 2, trying to showcase a little bit more. I mean, this is actually going to cause some really interesting dynamics in the group stage if you think about it. Being able to throw, if you threw the Valkyries and the Scarabs into one, and knowing that the one could then ultimately upend the other, that makes some interesting conversations. But again, it also is a teetering point. Whoever loses this is just completely... I think the max they can do if they lose this is 3 and 4.
4 levels.
And so you have a very, 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 very slim chance, like I am talking a 1%er max, of being able to get into the top 2. And that's just because I can't, off the top of my head, remember all of the current standings. Even if you are able to make it into the top 2, that might change based on the Kings set right after this.
Group stage is going to be fun, man. Seeing these teams kind of like try and do these mental gymnastics of where they're going to drop each team out there. Because remember, for the group stage, you're picking your opponent's group. You're not picking what you want to fight. You're telling your opponent, hey, I want you to fight this. And it's going to make it very interesting if the Valkyries can manage to get a win here, because now you can potentially throw both the Valks and the Scarabs, as you were talking about, in the same group and kind of make it a very interesting conversation between those. But now Ducky, after taking tier 1 tower, he'll use lurking in the water. Scream trying to poke him as much as he can. It's a huge rotation from the Scarabs to try and kill this solo laner, but now he's got Johnny here as backup, and Raffer right behind him. A daunt in from Johnny and a triple cataclysm out of Raffer. Makes sure that the Valkyries can bail themselves out. A shield on Raffer's side. A good pull from inbound. They finally might be able to get that first kill on the board, and it's going to be against Raffer. Stewart credited for the kill, Johnny and Ducky, but it's Zeros in the back line. He picks up one. He'll use the Moonlit Waltz to get himself out, being chased by SOT. Maybe they can pick up their second kill. Inbound gets that one. Johnny and Ducky have to go on a full retreat. The Scarabs finally get on the board, and in a big way, they take 3. But Emil, all the while, he strips away the entire left side of the map.
The good news is the Scarabs can actually try to retaliate against this. They have healing from Sylvanas. They can continue this push because they have the minion wave with them and their carry available. I think Emil makes a great call being able to push up right there. But unfortunately, the team just wasn't able to win. Zeros, if that ult was saved just slightly, it helps him get the kill, but if he was able to save it and hit more people with it, might have been a much easier swing or a much easier survival for him. That is a great fight for the Scarabs to be able to pick it up. It doesn't take as big a dent as I thought it would in the gold, especially because they weren't able to continue their onslaught onto that tier 2 like I had hoped. So they don't trade that out. Emil makes an even better call because of it. But they do have to be wary, because that goes to show that even though you have this massive lead, Valkyries can very easily be thwarted in the right scenario.
It's kind of this one-man trickle in every single time. It's just Ducky, and there's already 3 Scarabs. Well, now Johnny shows up, and, well, there's still 3 Scarabs. And by the time Raffer shows up is when the 4th one is there, and now you're just saying, Zeros, come on, man, where's our 4th? Where's our last man to even this out? By the time Zeros gets in, everybody is at such critical health. He uses the blink. Notably, he's on blink a second game on this Chang'e, so he can try and get to those back lines. Ultimate from Raffer, a taunt from Johnny, gets the beads from SOT. That's going to be a lot expended just to get those away from him. Emil will try and even out as far as these oracles go, and he will split them 1-1. So no vision control goes for the Fury, but the Valkyries still have a 5,000 gold lead up over the Scarabs here in Game 3.
And I think the biggest commit, Raffer without Cataclysm. I mean, that Cataclysm has been the playmaker, especially with Primal Fury coming up relatively soon. Not having that does open some opportunities for the Scarabs to continue to be aggressive. Not maybe as widely as they would want, but I see Johnny's beads are down, Zero's beads are down. Zeros also went blink on the Chang'e. That just connected with me.
Yeah.
But admittedly, and this is always the conversation when you have it, I think he did that earlier in Game 1 as well. Chang'e's one of the ones that blink and Aegis, or beads and Aegis, are built into the 2.
Raffer's trying to get in, and he steals it away with the shockwave. Are you kidding me? Valkyries able to grab an objective out. Raffer, even if he dies here, he is screaming words to the heavens, but he's got the rest of the team.
Cataclysm's almost back.
Raffer is here. Cataclysm almost back up. Ducky dives in the backline and lurking in the
fight.
waters. SLT is low. The poison spreads to 2, and he'll dive right on top of Stewart. The shell gives him a little bit of extra health inbound. Managed to stay alive with it, but it's Emil with the swarm. Almost clips Stewart, but he's able to make it out and Scream will deter him a little while longer. Johnny goes in with the taunt. Raffer with the Cataclysm finds inbound, but he's pushed back away. Shockwave is good damage, but Emil doesn't have the damage to close it out. Raffer may fall, but what a play from the support.
Health bars are low. There's a little bit of that
Oh no, the
healing.
bees in the bluestone. Stewart, is he gonna
Oh, just alive there for Stewart. You know what? You don't even care. Look, yeah, walk out of there. Good luck. Limp away, Scarabs. That is what the Valkyries are feeling. Let's talk about Shockwave for a second.
It's good.
At that distance, you're doing 75% damage of the max ability, right? So it does less damage the further out it is from Geb. That is a huge deal for Raffer to be able to time that so well. That's a great steal, plus they get a kill onto Sot. He spreads the poison. If Sot is able to get out of there without doing so, the Scarabs might be able to pick up a couple of those kills afterward. I don't know if I like the start of the Fire Giant, but I definitely like picking the fight.
Maybe it's just a bait inbound.
Oh, yeah,
Already
he's
half
gone.
thrown back with the ultimate from Johnny. Falling low, and the poison will not spread to anybody, but they take down the support, and the
Save
carry has to back away. The dot's not going to be enough to take Stewart out, but he has been RKO'd and TKO'd out of here. He is not going to be a part of any more fights. SOT down to half. The Valkyries, they win the fight. What more will they gain from it? They'll get the blink out of SOT.
Now is when you start up Fire Giant. You see SOT's back. In fact, you probably should have started it a few seconds earlier. You have a good opportunity to do it. You've got healing, but Baronic, Scream, soon to be Stewart are the only ones that can fight you for it. Johnny's got a good beeline to the back line. He's going to be able to find something.
Oh, Scream, you may be in danger. He stuns one, but he won't even have a chance to get the ultimate. Ducky takes him, but Baronic deals a nice chunk of damage right back to the 3 frontliners for the Valhalla Valkyries. They're going to have to lick their wounds and go back to base. But 2 big picks. They delay the Fire Giant just a little bit, so Scarabs are able to hold out, but man, it's a 7,000 gold disparity here just 21 minutes in, and this is a Valhalla Valkyries team unlike we have ever seen before.
This has been good engages, good play from them, and good control. I mean, look where a majority of the kills are. Baronic has only died once. Stewart hasn't died at all. He's been able to survive throughout all of these, but it doesn't matter because inbounds 1 and 4, they've been doing a good job of picking off the Sylvanas, and the same thing for SOT. This Osiris has been ulting out more than ulting in, and that amount of control has been very helpful.
Fire Giant down to half a pluck against SOT. Throws him in. Cataclysm shreds a bit of that health bar away, and Johnny wants to close it out. Ultimate hits, and it's immediately out by SOT. Ducky in the waters, hunting for inbound, finds the pluck, throws him back, and it's going to force another ultimate out of the Solar Scarabs defensively. Double ult by Zeros, but only Stewart is the one in danger. He's down to half health, and again, they take another TKO against the Scarabs, sending 2 of them back to base.
Scream still has ult, so does Stewart, so that is going to be a big deal for them. And the fact that, admittedly, you know, some of them are on low cooldown. I think the Scarabs are going to be able to continue putting up a fight, but you still get a good consolation prize inside of that Pyromancer. It's a good pickup for the Valkyries. The Scarabs are unfortunately not able to control this, mainly because they can't dictate how the fight starts. They are the ones moving forward to fight. They are the ones trying to get in there. And then the Valkyries are saying, okay, we're going to reposition all of you. We've got Cataclysm. We've got good plucks. We are going to make you feel uncomfortable.
Fire low. Inbound SOT here. Blinks are down, but SOT isn't caring about the fire. He's going for the fight. Emil is low, and Elo to the Afterlife fuse, and the Soul Scarab, they steal away the Fire Giant. SOT at half, and he's on the retreat. Zeros has to walk out, but Johnny gets caught out. Stewart picks him up.
Even better.
And the Scarabs may have just been able to turn this around. A big Fire Giant steal by the Scarabs.
Yeah, ignore any of the gold lead that the Valkyries have right now. That's going to get taken away by these towers. This is a great opportunity for the Scarabs, plus the kill onto Johnny. He goes too deep. The Valkyries hold on to that one a little bit too much. They've had way better opportunities for a Fire Giant prior to this, but that time around, with no big ult onto SOT to try and lock him down or force him to feel uncomfortable, the Scarabs can continue this onslaught. I like them pressuring the Phoenix here.
Going right up for it. Emil, Zeros, and Raffer here. Raffer's got the Cataclysm. He'll find 2 with, and a Stinger hits inbound, but it's a piercing moonlight in the backline against Raffer. He gets yanked right back into the Eclipse and a lot of damage. And Zeros able to return some of his own, but it's a double ult from SOT. Clips clips Zeros and Raffer. A stun against Zeros. He has nowhere to go. SOT picks up 1. Ducky trying to peel forward, but it's not enough. The Scarabs, off of 1 Fire Giant, have turned this game right back around, and it's the mid lane Phoenix and the Valkyries that falls first.
Oh, what a good pick from Johnny, though. And then the pluck. This is a good kill to be able to return. Maybe not the ideal kill. There should still be at least a tier 1, potentially a tier 2 tower push from the Scarabs. Ideally, you're going to get this Oni Fury as well. No qualms about it. Without Zeros for another 30 seconds, you are just defending if you are the Valkyries here, not looking for a lot of fights. And that's where those beads, that blink specifically, maybe comes back to bite them. Look, you've got that immunity built up for yourself. There's only so much you can do.
Emil, don't stand up here. Don't stand up here, my man. Scream will stun him out. The Caltron's poked, and Emil, well, now we get to see exactly what a Tsukuyomi can do to an AMC, though granted, Emil probably shouldn't be standing all the way at his tier 2 tower, knowing that the Scarabs are still on this side of the map. You even saw he was looking, saying, are they going to come out? But by that point, it's already too late.
That's just bad. There's no way to gloss over it. There's no reason for you to be there. You know that they're on that side of the map, and you have no ward coverage. You hear an Oni Fury call. Maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe they backed off. At the minimum, they still have Fire Giant and their Hunter and 2 front lines alive. Like, of course they're going to go for a tower. Maybe not enough to pressure a tier 2, but that just feels like, again, 2 really big missteps from the Valkyries. 1 in that death, but 1 in the Fire Giant prior. And again, that gold lead, that massive lead that the Valkyries had spent so long, 21 minutes, I think, up to that point, cultivating, is gone in the blink of an eye. It just feels like that was 2 really unfortunate scenarios for them after some really great fights.
I mean, we're going close to 9,000 experience, which matters a little bit less now, especially SOT still a little bit behind, but that's 7,000 to 8,000 gold that the Valkyries had, all but gone. 2,000, less than that, only 1,500 between these teams, and still a very relevant gold. Final items have not been started up. Starter items have not been picked up by everybody just yet, and Johnny, he'll use a lot of his mobility and damage to try and start up this red buff. He'll be spotted out by the members of the Scarabs, and he'll thankfully probably just have to give this one up.
I'm looking at it now. We were talking about the inherent, like, again, 50% anti-heal that Chang'e has, 50% anti-heal that Sobek has. The only anti-heal item that I see on this team is on Emil, of all people, right now. I mean, admittedly, yeah, you've got a good Circuit build. I like, I guess, the Chang'e build, but realistically, it just feels weird for me to see them kind of forego something so important.
Cataclysm only on SOT. Zeros goes in, finds 3 with the ultimate. It's a dive in the backline by Johnny to find 1, but he won't find anybody. Zeros is the one shredded down, and Johnny gets picked, but it's a 1-1 trade. The junglers are both out.
And now this is a good point of contention. The Fire Giant and the sustain that's available for the Valkyries, or I'm sorry, for the Scarabs, they should be able to move forward.
Raffer finds a 3-man knockup in the back line, and the bees are spreading like wildfire against the Scarabs. They are starting to feel the burn of this AMC. Stewart well under half health. Raffer rolls to the back. The knockup will find 3, but nothing more from the Valkyries. They hold on and defend their left side Phoenix, so that will still stand for that next Fire Giant.
Mid, they've got fire minions, and they've got 30 seconds without Johnny. Luckily, Johnny's going to respawn. Same thing for Scream, just in time for that FG. Like you said, they defend that left side. That's maybe the most important thing. You can stem the bleeding of a red mid Phoenix down. You can deal with that. Of all those fire minions, you can deal with those. I do want to see a little bit more from, admittedly, what is a weird... So Zeros' playbook so far is blink, ult, scram. It is get in there, stun, and then
run,
just
baby.
do whatever you can to stay alive if possible. Does keep his beads, and so I think that's going to be a big deal for this next engagement. We also have to watch Johnny. No blink available. He's been doing a lot of beelines to the back line, getting specifically either solo or troll with his ult, or inbound, or Stewart trying to lock down anybody and everybody on the Scarabs. But they're not going to have the same positioning they had last time. They're not the ones in control of the pit like they were before. The Scarabs have a lot of ward coverage over on this side of the map as well, so they're going to be able to find a hefty chunk of better positioning just off of the gold that they spent on the map. There are a couple, no, only one sentry that I see in the inventory for the Valkyries, and that's honestly where they're going to suffer.
Blink, or a pluck from Ducky finds SOT, but not much more. Zeros is the target. Zeros gets pulled in by inbound. A quick beat. He'll turn around, throw an ultimate, but he's already been popped. Scream credited with the kill. Ducky at half, and in the back line is Johnny trying to find anybody that he can. The poison on Baronic, but Baronic will live, and it's SOT trotting up the back line. He'll chase down Emil. The shield will only delay the inevitable. Scream putting some big poke on the Hunter, and Emil has nowhere to run. Scream able to pick up 2 kills in the fight, and it's down 2 for the Valkyries.
Yeah, and admittedly, like, look, getting Zeros there is maybe the biggest pick. He's done so much. That ult is still nice, but there's not much he could do once he's in the fray of there. The blink is great for an engage, not for any sort of disengage. He had to use his beads, had to use his whole kit, still unable to do anything. Same thing for Emil, the only other like maintainable source of anti-heal for the team. And with Johnny not even able to spread the poison like he did in the first few fights, this is just a good pickup for the Scarabs. They're going to go on this onslaught. They should be able to get this Phoenix.
Bolts are coming back up for the 3, still alive. They could pull off a combo to try and take somebody down, but it's the Phoenix that's the target of aggression for the Scarabs. They shred through that right side bird like toilet paper, and now with Zeros coming back up, Johnny diving in the back line, finds Baronic, a quick flicker out, and Ducky goes in, the lurking in the waters, trying to find the mid laner, but he won't grab him. It'll be Stewart who picks him off. Raffer down a half, and SOT is just W-keying the back line. Zeros can't even find a path in. 1 bird down, and right to the mid lane goes the Scarabs.
And I like this because, guess what? That's a weekend Phoenix. It should be pretty easy with this Fire Giant already on your belt. But it's taking them a little bit of time. Raffer gets a good Cataclysm.
Cataclysm on 2, Stewart low. Johnny dealing with SOT, who's playing the perfect distraction for the Scarabs and letting the rest of his team try and slay up this mid lane. Scream still alive. He'll put some good poke, and mid lane Phoenix falls. The Scarabs has now stripped 2 of the 3 birds off the map. And with the left side one already a little weak from their last engagement, they'll try and push this one out too.
Again, good damage. They've got good capabilities, but 15 seconds still without Ducky. So it's a 5 versus 4. You just can't do much here. 3 Phoenixes down. You're going to be spending more time on defense just trying to keep the Titan alive right now than you're going to be able to do anything on the map. And that's still with 2.5 minutes on this Fire Giant. I mean, a good regroup from the Scarabs, maybe spend some of the gold you just got from burning and try to finalize any of these builds. I see a Wind Demon about to come out for Stewart. That's realistically the last bit of gold that you need to spend. This game is such a cinch for you at this point. You just have to do well under the Titan. That is the hard part, especially considering Johnny and a lot of these close quarters games have been more favorable for the Valkyries, or close quarters fights, up until that first FG fight. If Johnny can have one good performance in this fight, that'll swing it for them. Otherwise, it has been Stewart, the impact that he's had, as well as SOT and Scream really just separating the team. The Valkyries just haven't been able to agree on anything.
And Zeros still has not got his 6th item on the board. He's got a Tier 1 magic focus that he's starting up. I can only imagine if this game goes long enough that might turn into a Divine Rune, but it seems it might be a bit late in the game.
4 items too late? 3 items too late?
Yeah, maybe a bit too late. in this game. I mean, you were talking earlier, 90% anti-heal if you can hit him with that third ability just from the natural anti-heal. It has plus Divine Ruin, but the Scarabs may not be looking for anything more beyond here except for a fight at the throne room. Ducky poked out the pull off to Mark from inbound. Emil and Johnny waiting on the back to see who they can poke, but inbound is one getting chopped by this B. Quite a bit of damage against both of these frontliners, but inbound has the sustain to stay alive.
And this is where things get awkward, right? You've got fire minions you have to deal with on one side, and then the team to deal with on the other. Raffer, what are you doing out there?
Raffer is all by himself in no man's land. Johnny shows up to help him out. Stewart takes a bit of damage. Ducky tries to get the final blow against him, but Raffer's already down. The Piercing Moonlight gets one, and Stewart is somehow still alive. Zeros misses the ultimate, but he finally takes him out, but it's a 2-for-1 trade. So far, Zeros falling down. Johnny and Ducky both low. Zeros goes down. Scream trying to get it, but with Ducky burned out, the Solar Scarabs turn it around after being 8K down. They managed to steal one Fire Giant and then push to the end of the game. Valkyries fall in game number 3, and the Scarabs finally get that game 3 win they've been looking for all phase.
Such a great start for the Valkyries into some of the most mistake-ridden play. I mean, like, it just feels like they're separated way too often. A lot of their game plan had pivoted on Ducky. The Scarabs do a great job adapting to it. They get hit with the same play about 5 or 6 times in a row, and then finally they look at it in the Fire Giant. The sustain comes in handy because there's no big anti-heal on the other side unless 2 specific abilities connect from them or you have something from Emil. It just feels like the Valkyries set themselves up for success and then immediately set themselves up for failure, and the Scarabs capitalized on it beautifully.
Valkyries fall down in game number 3. Scarabs get the win they've been looking for all phase. We're going to take it to a break, and we'll come back to the desk right after.
Benji is around the back. Good Rivers review from inbound. Keeps the back line out of this fight. Aurora's got the Scarabs blessing onto himself. Slice close spin. Ducks back down. It's a big engage from SOT. Over on the Oracles. SOT going massive.
For the cash, got snakes in the grass, no brakes on the ad, but it's all fun. We done seen it all, heard enough, give me space before I murder y'all. 10 bad here, I'ma curb them all. 12 missed calls, and I still made a curtain call. Here to light it up, lighten up. Hear him talking, they ain't right enough, tighten up. Everything that I came for, I left with. I don't bang sets, I just bang on the set list. Going past supper when I came for the breakfast. Put me in your prayers, I might put you on the guest list. Young, to me reckless, gold in my soul, got the same on my necklace.
And the Solar Scarabs break their Game 3 curse, and they'll get their first set victory of the phase here over the Valhalla Valkyries. That was a back-and-forth affair to watch. We had steals and everything, and the Solar Scarabs the ones who benefit the most, and they'll grab the win here in game number 3. All of that action powered by our friends, of course, over at Alienware. And if you want to power your at-home gaming, you need to go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW. You'll be able to get some discounts on all the sweet gear for yourself. So whether you're watching, you're playing, and you want to upgrade that experience, go to smitegame.com/Alienware. And thanks as always to our friends at Alienware for powering us this year here in the SPL. Mifflin joins me to talk about the thrilling conclusion of the Solar Scarabs versus the Valhalla Valkyries here, Miff. And this is one the Valkyries probably feel like got away from them. I mean, this is a game they're up big, 10 kills to 0. You're up at like 8,000 gold. Then a Fire Giant Steel turns it all around.
I just can't believe in a position like that the Valhalla Valkyries would leave it up to a coin toss, right? This was a legitimate situation where I'm looking around, I'm looking at the people around me and saying, are the Solar Scarabs about to get goose-egged by the Valhalla Valkyries in a Game 3 situation? And unfortunately for the Valhalla Valkyries and their fans, that's not how this one pans out. A singular Fire Giant Steel immediately transitions itself into a very, very clean win post-Fire Giant Steel for the Solar Scarabs. It just felt like after they'd stripped away all those towers, the Phoenixes, there wasn't much fight back from the Valks.
And I think that's important. Look, I mean, if you're the Scarabs, you get this steal. The game is not handed to you necessarily in that point.
Still gotta work.
You know, you still got to work for it, and the Solar Scarabs were able to convert that opportunity into a win. And I think that's what's most important here. Scream had a pretty good game on the Tsukiyomi, and we figured that would be the case. We wondered how some of these carries would match up into the Tsukiyomi, and I think Scream did his job making some of that backline uncomfortable.
Yeah, throughout the early game, it was a little bit of a quiet performance from the entirety of the Scarabs, but once the ball started rolling, Scream was rolling right along with it, able to work his way into the back line, make it a little bit harder for Emilito to perform. That disarm for the Kusari Gamma was certainly putting in some work, and obviously able to close gap on his zeros a couple of times in the late game as well. But it's that Fire Giant Steel right there. That's the singular play of the game that shifts up the fate of both of these teams. SOT coming up in a big way and ripping a win straight from the jaws of the Valkyries.
Look, SOT has at times been the one pulling this team forward. The solo lane has looked great for the Solar Scarabs team, and when you need him most, you know, we talked about when you need Scream most, he stepped up in game number 2. SOT steps up as far as Fire Giant Steel goes here in game number 3. Stewart had a quietly good performance here today, 3-1-10 on the back end of a good Hachiman game. In game 2, I believe it was 4-0 something for Stewart in game 2, so only one death between the last couple of games. Johnny had a pretty good KDA here, but hard to argue against 32,000 damage from your Heimdall.
Sheesh, that is too much, I'd say, especially considering how much he was like losing throughout the early, right?
And you say I'm the biggest zoomer on the team?
Because I tossed out a sheesh?
Yes, and you dragged it out there. That is unbelievable.
Well, that's because that 32,000 damage is worthy of at least 4 E's in your sheesh.
Right, and when your jungler has 5 M's, I don't know, I was trying to draw something to Scream there. It didn't really work out. But I think Stewart, there's something to be said here for Stewart where, look, you come into the SPL, you're now the hunter for this team. It takes a little while to build up, get some of that chemistry. I think he's really started to hit his stride, though.
Yeah, it seems like he started to play with a lot of confidence recently. I mean, it felt like towards the initial part of his joining the SPL was a little bit more of a passive play style, just kind of trying to figure out the ropes, but very recently he's come into his own, and, well, he's bringing that fight to some of these veteran players.
That's right, and Stewart, I was going to say, has the pleasure of joining me. I have the pleasure of joining Stewart for the post-game interview.
Sure
Stewart,
do.
thanks for sitting down with me. Look, first and foremost, you guys have played, 5 sets so far this phase. 4 of them have gone to 3 games. Does it feel like a weight off your shoulders to finally break that Game 3 curse?
Yeah, it feels alright.
Fair enough. It feels good to get the first win of the phase. Look, it was a back-and-forth affair, but you're able to get that win, and I think that's the important thing to look at. What are comms like in Game 3? Look, it doesn't start off your way. You get a big steal. What are communications like between you guys in the moment? Did you know that was your route back into the game?
Yeah. Kind of knew the game was over from the start, though,
Right. The moment you loaded in, you knew it was over.
Yeah.
And Miff and I were talking about you just prior to this interview starting. It was kind of a trial by fire. You joined in a team that had a lot of roster swaps, but as of late, I think you've been playing some of your best Smite. Do you feel like you personally have been playing some of your best Smite here recently?
In my last 2 sets, no. Can I cuss? Is that okay? Can I get shit
I
on,
would
like,
not
the...
cuss.
Please don't.
Myth says no.
Oh, well, that's bad. Well,
It's
yeah,
all
I don't
good.
know. Like, the last set, I don't think I played too well because I went like 0-4
Sure.
in the last set and kind of lost just the game. But other than that, like this set, I did feel pretty well. Like,
Good.
I feel like I did okay.
You've been growing, and I think that's the important thing. Excited to watch you and the rest of the team continue to go. Congrats on the big win here over the Valkyries, and
you.
enjoy the win.
Thank you.
Miff, I appreciate you jumping in there. No, please don't.
He had to be told, I guess.
Right. No, look, in a back-and-forth set against the Jade Dragons, I think forgivable that that Stewart had some tough games. I think more holistically, I look at Stewart and his growth where, you know, the memes about asset or hindrance. I don't even think we're having that. I don't think we have that conversation about him anymore. I mean, I think Stewart is now beyond that realm of conversation for this Scarabs team. And I think, you know, he said it feels all right. You know, I'm sure the Scarabs would have rather it be cleaner, Miff, but I think a weight off their shoulders. Are finally able to get that Game 3 win. Time to start figuring out some of these Game 1s, right? You get these wins in 2-0. But that does help this team moving forward. Look back at this weekend so far. A couple 3-game sets all in a row here, and we've got one final one here, Mifflin. An exciting look at a matchup between the Kings and the Oni Warriors.
Man, I'm excited for this one. The Oni Warriors have been looking revitalized coming into Phase 3. Some of their players now local to Georgia, so the ping going to be cleaned up a little bit there as well.
Yeah, can't you just feel Neoma, like you just, you know, he's
it's
not
a
even
different. I can feel him in the air.
right. He's
when I
not
go
even in the
outside.
studio. You just know he's in state.
Yeah, that Ma Musk, if you would.
Right. I would not. Miff. I appreciate you. The Oni Warriors, they have 4 sets to go still, and the standings are going to be so important to look at here for this Oni Warriors team because remember, those top 2 spots is what you're looking for as far as the group stages go. After we play in the groups, those top 2 teams qualify to the World's Finals bracket. And so right now, the Atlantis Leviathans and the Jade Dragons in a comfortable spot. The Camelot Kings, a chance to jump up to those 3 wins. And so we're also close knit here. The Leviathans easily feeling the most comfortable, but the Oni Warriors with 4 sets left still can largely control their own destiny here. But they've got some tough ones. They've got the Kings, they've got the Leviathans,
Yikes.
a matchup against the Valkyries, and then the Jade Dragons to round out the phase. So you're looking at some really tough matchups, but we've seen some great and some iffy from the Oni Warriors. What do you think it's going to take on that spectrum to beat the Kings?
Man, just play your best game, right? If the Oni Warriors are firing on all cylinders, there's a reason we thought this squad was going to be a super team coming into this year, and very recently we've seen flashes of that super team that could have been. If they're playing at that level, if they're playing consistently, I think they really will be able to bring the fight to the Camelot Kings, but that said, the Camelot Kings have been looking pretty strong recently too.
What was the term you just used about Neoma? I don't want to say it again.
The Ma Musk?
Yeah, I'm going to say it anyway. We'll see if Neoma and his mom Musk can help grab a win over the Camelot Kings. Stick around. Kings versus Warriors up next.